I love white people. I mean, I think it's kind of obvious people can not only see the emotion on your face, but hear it in your voice when you talk about this, Lee. Why?
I care. That's it.
You can't let that happen to me.
You get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
Let that happen to me.
You get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
Washington, on, drop it. Power panel. John Idler, Jay Huger, Mastrobrani, everybody. Mastrobrani. Okay.
Muy fuerte. Good to be back.
Uno más.
Uno más.
Okay, so we got a great show ahead for you guys. Tick, 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 tick. That's coming up. Fun for everybody. Okay, second hour, we got another fun special guest for you guys, Kal Penn. He's gonna host the show with us in the second hour. I'm also gonna talk to him in the conversation. We don't normally have the conversation. That's our interview show that we do as part of the third hour of the Young Turks. We don't normally do it on Friday, but we will today. And that'll be with Kal Penn as well. So obviously he'll host the show and then we'll have a conversation with him about his career and his new show. Okay, don't forget, I started telling you guys about this yesterday. Massive announcement sometime next week. Massive, okay?
The return of the common room.
So far everybody I've told, I say that and they're like, yeah. And then I tell them what it is, they're like, all right, so that's next week. Don't miss the shows next week, obviously. Okay.
Are you gonna announce that you were on the phone call too?
I'm not
with the
saying
Ukrainians?
anything. I'm not saying anything. You can save it for next week.
First-hand knowledge.
Could you imagine? Turns out I've been in the White House the whole time.
He's the whistleblower.
He's the whistleblower.
The call is coming from inside the house.
I knew it.
Red dots appear on his shirt.
Yeah. Actually, we have a story about Anonymous today, and it's a hell of a story. Okay, so that's the person who wrote the New York Times op-ed and has a book coming out. All right, so let's do it. Let's get to it. Bloomberg, go.
Okay. This has been a big week for the 0.00001% of you who've been saying, I want more billionaires in this Democratic primary, because we might have one. On Thursday, the New York Times first reported that Michael Bloomberg is flirting with the idea of a presidential bid again, noting he has dispatched staffers to gather signatures in Alabama, a state with an early filing deadline, and calling up prominent Democrats, including, by the way, Harry Reid, who's apparently still very important. It's not clear whether he's again threatening to run or if this time around he'll really go through with it, but I think it's safe to say that pretty much everyone is assuming that this is a serious move that he's making.
Yeah, it looks like it, and he's got to decide in a couple of days because there's more filing deadlines next week. So are you in or are you out? He's been doing this for a long time. When the news broke in the middle of the show yesterday, it was confusing. It was like because we're doing the show and during the commercial break, I get a thing that says Bloomberg files in Alabama. I'm like, he's running against Pete Sessions. So, because Pete Sessions obviously announced yesterday that he's running for the Alabama Senate seat, so I knew that wasn't the thing. But what I was mainly worried about, and guys, this is the most important part of this story, is I immediately scoured through this the story to see, is he running as a Democrat or is he running as an independent? Because that's all the difference in the world. So he is running as a Democrat in the Democratic primary, at least for now. Okay.
He says supposedly that he will not run as an independent.
Yeah, I need that to be nailed down with 1,000,000,000% certainty. So if you're gonna run the Democratic Party, the one thing that everybody should pledge, and so they, ask the progressives this all the time when it's never been an issue. But I'm much more concerned about the Bloombergs of the world. You will not run as an independent. If that's 100% certainty, then the water's warm. Come on in, Mike. It's gonna be great. I think the Democratic primary voters are clamoring for a billionaire to save the day. I'm sure of it.
Well, especially if it's a billionaire who's also generally out of line with Democrats on issues like bank regulations, stop and frisk policing, and the Me Too movement. He has criticized it in the past. He's singled out Elizabeth Warren on her push to break up big banks. And generally when it comes to that area and that industry, he's gonna have positions that are unlike many voters, I would assume.
I wish more billionaires would do like Richard Branson and just go parasailing with presidents as opposed to running for president. I guess when you got this much money and you're 77 and you're bored, rather than starting a band, you just run for president.
Yeah.
Although that would have been equally, or actually more shocking, but fun though, if you started a band. That I would listen to.
That's what I'm talking about, right? The Bloomberg Five.
Yeah.
I saw Mike and the Bloombies.
I saw a tweet that just said, Mike, just buy Fox News. Like, yeah, why not? Well, I mean, there's a million other things you could do that would actually benefit the world, but why this is so, I guess they say, what was the tagline for the social network? It's like, you can't get to 1 billion friends without making some enemies. Well, you can't get to $53 billion without losing complete touch with reality.
Yeah.
Like to think, I'm looking out across America and thinking, I'm the one that they want.
Well, in the article it talked about how he felt that Biden's going to be the centrist guy, and now that he feels that Biden's not doing that, I'm going to come in and be the centrist guy. This makes me question why so many people are so afraid of the progressive side. Like, it seems like people that should be happy with getting health care and free college education are convinced to vote against themselves and get pulled back towards the center more. Whereas I think, like, let's go long, let's go for it. Let's push ourselves into the more progressive side. And unfortunately, you get more guys like this who are like, no, let's come back in the middle. But let's go. If we're gonna lose, which hopefully we won't, but if we're gonna lose, let's lose big as opposed to losing in the middle.
Well, so I want to touch on something that you both said. So first of all, why don't I mind Bloomberg being in the race? To the point that John made, I'll add one more thing that he's conservative about. He's very open to charter schools. So, like, anyone who thinks Mike Bloomberg has a real chance of winning the Democratic primary honestly doesn't know anything about politics. And so you say, oh, Cenk, that's not fair. You have to keep an open mind and blah, 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 and he has billions of dollars, blah, blah, blah. Totally, utterly irrelevant. No way these primary voters are voting for a guy who targeted blacks and Latinos with stop and frisk, and who is a giant, not just that he's a billionaire, I don't care that he's a billionaire. I don't know that others do, maybe they do. I don't care that he's a billionaire. I think you could be a wonderful guy and be a billionaire. But that defends Wall Street with like a frenzied passion.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we don't need to regulate Wall Street. Now remember, he made all of his money by selling the Bloomberg terminals to Wall Street. Okay, so he is Wall Street through and through. So that is never, ever gonna win on the Democratic primary side in this cycle. Like that, you have to know nothing about politics to think that. Yet most of the major media, they are taking him so seriously. They're like, oh my God, this is a formidable entry into the race if he does. Formidable with who?
Well, why don't we show that actually? Because the thing is, it's not like he actually went around the country talking to activists and regular voters, let alone progressives, to find out if they'd like him. He talks to a limited number of people, the power brokers in the party and people in media. And what do you know? Some of those people actually like him. And so take a look at a little bit of what Chuck Todd had to say yesterday after the announcement, or at least the leak came out.
Guns and climate. Who's to his left?
Well, Beto was to his left on guns, but he's not going to be a factor any longer.
Right? I mean, so
also the governor of
you can make an argument that
Bloomberg has embraced the Green New Deal.
I don't think he's embraced that. I agree.
So that's one area where he actually is more to the center than she is.
You know, in the smoke-filled room, you'd say, on paper, Bloomberg has the right balance of what you want to win a broad election. Maybe not a deep election, but if you're trying to win the ex-suburban Republican, which, by the way, Michael Bloomberg's an ex-suburban, arguably an ex-urban Republican. And at the same time, you care about these core progressive issues like guns and climate. It ain't just somebody buying an election.
Oh, that's such a bad take in so many ways.
But listen, guys, I was just in New York, and I was at a conference that had both bankers and media figures. We talked about it on the post game yesterday, tyt.com/join to get the fuller conversation. But I'm here to tell you, they live in a billion% different bubble than the rest of us. I mean, and the bubble's thick. Everyone in the room's like, oh yeah, Biden, he got this thing nailed. I mean, I'm a little worried about Warren. Warren, she would destroy capitalism. She would immediately destroy the economy. Oh my God, hair on fire. And they think, well, and she would obviously lose. Obviously lose. We would all vote against her. She would obviously lose. You guys are 1% of 1% of 1%. You don't know anything. You don't know anything about the rest of the country. They're talking about, like, I said to one guy, wages have been stagnant for 40 years. He says, so what? I mean, look, even if you don't care policy-wise, in terms of politics, that's 99.9% of the voters. They care. That's the answer. They care. So a guy who is so out of touch with the person, and look, but so why I'm telling you that is not just because I guarantee you, I mean, I would bet any amount of money and give almost any odds that Mike Bloomberg will not win this Democratic primary. But I'm telling you that because Chuck Todd lives in that bubble. It's a weird, ironic way of almost defending him. Everyone in that bubble, all they ever hear every day, 24/7 by everyone around them, by 99% of the people around them are like, oh no, Warren and Sanders can't possibly win. And people don't like populism. Trump just won, he just won in 2016. And they're still all going around like, oh, we hate populism, right? Everybody hates populism. No, populism isn't gonna work. You need a really establishment candidate who loves billionaires. Well, that was Hillary Clinton, she lost to Donald Trump. But nope, that facts cannot penetrate that bubble. Yeah. So everyone on TV thinks, oh, Bloomberg, oh, hey, could be Bloomberg, it could be Bloomberg. You guys are nuts. Here, come on, any person on cable news, name the price, name the odds, I'll take the bet.
And also, it would be one thing if it was just Chuck Todd talking to his audience, who he knows are not composed of progressives, and saying, I like him as a potential alternative to Biden. He's got a bunch of money, I like that. It was the gaslighting that, no, the reason he'll win is because of core progressive values. Who's to the left? Who's to the left? He doesn't support the Green New Deal. Well, yeah, but other than that, on the climate, who's to the left? What are you talking about? That's where the party is at. That's where the left is at. They reformed all of what the Democratic Party thinks about and is planning when it has to do with climate change around that policy. He completely rejects that, but no one's to his left on that topic.
Everybody is to his left on like 4 really significant topics. Like literally everyone, even the most conservative Democrat is to the left. Joe Biden, it seems like a wild-eyed progressive compared to Bloomberg on Wall Street and on stop and frisk and criminal justice reform, right? Mm-hmm. So, and then on the issues he's supposed to be good at, hey, I don't begrudge him that. If he wants to help on gun control and on climate change, I'm super happy to take his help. But if he thinks being moderate on those positions is good enough to win a Democratic primary and have people support him for president, he's nuts, and everybody who thinks that is nuts. But I want to make one more point about what Maz said. Look, everyone in media drills into everybody's head that the establishment Democrats are more likely to win. It is the exact opposite of the truth. You just saw it with your own eyes. So it's not me versus the rest of the media combined. It's your own eyes, facts that you know to be true, versus the rest of the media combined. Hillary Clinton did in fact lose. I don't know if you guys know that. She's not president. She was an establishment Democrat. Biden is an establishment Democrat. Bloomberg is an establishment partly Democrat. So they are not more electable. So every time you say that, they're like, oh, no, it's because of the weather and James Comey and the Russians, blah, blah, blah. Otherwise, the establishment never. No, Bernie Sanders had a 12-point lead on election day. 12-point lead. I don't know if you know this, but they would have run a campaign against him. They would have had negative ads. Oh, really, Mr. Sophisticated? I didn't know that. Yes, but a 12-point lead would have been a nice cushion, right? As opposed to what we had, which is someone who lost to Donald Trump. So I'm positive, beyond anything I can describe to you, that Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders have a far, far better chance of winning than Joe Biden or preposterous Mike Bloomberg. They think they're gonna rally the whole country because they're like, oh no, guys, it's okay. We now have a billionaire who's mainly right wing. So hey, everybody go vote for lower wages.
Yeah.
That's not planet Earth. That's not this country. These analysts unfortunately know nothing.
Yeah, but we want to be fair. And so when someone launches, we want to show you the side from those who support him. And it's been a little bit difficult to find supporters of his, but we showed you one. Chuck Todd seems excited about the prospect, whether he's going to endorse him or not. We did identify another supporter of the Bloomberg run, this one even more supportive. But to explain that, we have to catch you up, and that involves launching into another episode of When Rich Men Cry.
I care. That's it.
So that individual there is billionaire Leon Cooperman, who was brought to tears while doing a media appearance after being asked about Donald Trump potentially being impeached, and they were also talking about a wealth tax. He just doesn't like it because he cares so much. Turns out that while the week started off pretty bad for him, it got better once Bloomberg announced, because he just said, I'm a huge fan of Michael. I know him personally. It's a breath of fresh air. Unless he changes his stripes, he will have my unequivocal support.
Oh, he's gonna rally all of the, what, 400 billionaires?
542 billionaires,
Well, I mean, look, 542, that's not a bad number. I mean, there's 330 million people in the country, but it's a good start. So yes, I agree that if the election was held with only billionaires voting, Mike Bloomberg might win. And by the way, in the past, that was basically what it was, because they would just give him all of the money, and in this case, he doesn't even need it, and he would just buy the election. But it's modern politics. Over the last 2 years, we have shown you that doesn't work anymore. Over the last 4 years, we've shown you that doesn't work anymore. And where it works the least is in presidential elections, where there's a ton of free media. And you can't buy your way out of free media. So you go ahead and get all the billionaire voters you want, but nobody else is interested. In fact, just don't take my word for it. Here's one poll, it's a Fox News poll that was done. They asked Democratic primary voters. By the way, the Fox News polls have been relatively accurate. That's why Donald Trump is losing his mind every time it shows that he's getting killed by every Democrat in the race.
And Sean Hannity attacked a Fox News poll recently too.
Yeah, that'd be like me attacking a TYT poll.
Yeah,
it's so stupid. Anyway, 6% of Democratic primary voters said they would definitely support him, which I'm actually astonished at how high that is. I don't believe that number, but okay, it's a poll and I'm giving it to you. We'll get real polls in a second if he actually enters the race, because this was a theoretical, hypothetical poll of him entering the race. When he actually does, and when he makes appearances, when he tells it what he is. But anyway, 6%. I don't know if you know this, but that's not a high number. How about the people who said they definitely would not vote for him? What is it? I mean, if Chuck Todd is right, what's that? 2%, 1%, 0%? Because everybody's interested in Mike.
Maybe 6%.
Oh man, then that would be, then he'd be just even, right? 32% would never ever vote for him.
Yeah.
6 to 32. I'm not great at math, but I can tell that that's not a good number.
Didn't he run as a Republican once? Has he run already?
Yeah, as a Republican mayor, not for president.
Okay. But I mean, it feels like he's so easy. It's so easy to target him. I mean, look at what Kamala Harris is going through right now because of some of the policies that she supported. Now she's already out the gate. People thought, oh, maybe she's the one, and now she's suffering. And so if he has on record the stop and frisk, He's got the Me Too comments. I mean, there's so many things you could go after him for. And then in the debate with Trump, it just doesn't feel, because Trump is Teflon, right? So whatever he says, his supporters just follow. Whatever, you say the logic shows that this guy's done X, Y, and Z. They go, well, whatever, he's doing it for the country, right? But it feels like somebody like Bloomberg in a one-on-one, to me, would like get his butt whooped. Just, my God, you know what I'm saying? It feels so easy. Even though in the, I guess there was, I heard him in the Democratic convention, national convention, he said something along the lines of he was calling Trump a con man and people were cheering him on and stuff. Great speech, but go one-on-one, you're gonna get whooped. So I just, again, it feels like you said, I hope he doesn't take a look and go, okay, you know what, I gotta go independent, because then we're screwed.
Yeah, and look, guys, last things about that, because there's so many good points that Maz just made. First of all, Kamala Harris got beat up in the Democratic primary because she went after truancy. That was like considered too tough and on crime, and I agree with that. But I mean, that's your standard. Stop and frisk.
Oh my God.
Oh, like 1,000,000,000% worse than what Kamala Harris did. He would get slaughtered in the debates.
The only thing who likes his past on that is Pete Buttigieg, who's like, stand me next to him. Focus on him for a little bit, please, when it comes to those topics.
Yeah, and so guys, I'm not against ex-Republicans. I'm an ex-Republican, right? But the dude was a Republican until Trump. So it's like, oh, Bush and Cheney, fantastic. He ran as a Republican, not like, hey, I kind of think like the Republicans from afar. He ran as a Republican and he's like, oh, Bush, Cheney, torture, the Iraq war. He was on for all that. Yeah, God damn it, do you not follow politics at all? There's no way he could possibly win. But to that point, I want to come back to the most important part of it. Look, the real threat here, guys, is not that Bloomberg is going to run in the Democratic primary, that he's going to run in the Democratic primary as a pretense to then later run as an independent. Well, I ran as a Democrat, I gave it a fair chance, but these Democrats, they're terrible and extreme. I had no choice but to protect my billions of dollars by running as an independent and just taking, even if he could at most 1%. Take 2%, right? At most in a general election, that's different than a Democratic primary, right? But even if he took 0.5%, it might be enough to put Trump into office instead of Warren or Sanders. And then he'll go, oh, golly gee. Now he says, if you ask him, he says that we need to finish the job and ensure that Trump is defeated. He's an unprecedented threat to our nation. But Warren and Sanders are an unprecedented threat to his wallet. Yeah. So he'll find, look, what I'm worried about is that guys like him will find any excuse to be like, well, I mean, I didn't want to do it. I ran in the Democratic primary, I didn't want to do it. But I mean, I had to. Oh, golly gee, did I take 1.5 points and that cost the Democrats the election and Trump is back to giving me trillions of dollars in tax cuts? Well, I guess that's what happened. Oh, silly me. So that's the real threat from Mike Bloomberg. And if he does that, he will be a villain for all time. I mean, there's no recovery from that if you try to aid and abet Donald Trump in an era like this.
He's gonna Jill Stein it.
Yeah, and by the way, he won't get any of the crap that she got.
Yeah.
Like when it was Jill Stein, they're like, oh, get third party, you're costing us an election. If it's Bloomberg, they're gonna be like, well, oh, Bloomberg, the reasonable moderate, maybe he could win. Maybe he could win.
I think that's a great point. I would love to see Hillary Clinton say that Michael Bloomberg is grooming himself to run as a third-party candidate right now.
Yeah, that's a great question. Are the Republicans grooming him? Are the Russians grooming him? How come we're not having that conversation?
So far as I know, he has said he's not going to, I guess. I want to see great assurances, whereas Hillary was attacking Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard said over and over and over and over again she's never going to run as a third-party candidate.
So here's how you can give an assurance. My trust fund that I was going to give to X, Y, and Z, if I run as an independent, will now go to the Young Turks. Okay, well that would be a guarantee that you're not running as an independent. Yeah. Okay, let's see that happen.
Yeah. First break?
Yes. All right. When we come back, the person inside the White House that wrote the devastating New York Times op-ed has a new book out, and boy, are there, when you want to talk about devastating, some of the stories from inside there, the two in particular, the 100 terrible ones, but two in particular where I was like, wow, just when you thought he can't possibly go any lower. Yeah, he went lower. Right back.
People work hard for what they have, and if you want more, you gotta do it yourself. Stock stories bring headlines to life in an instant, whether you work on Wall Street or in Wichita. Stock report cards and professional analyst buy and sell ratings help gut check your thought process. Buy stock, take profits, and manage risk. And the Idea Feed is your daily one-stop investment shop with videos that unpack today's money-moving headlines in under 3 minutes, because you need ideas, not lectures. And live in-app chat from when you want to talk to someone, but you don't actually want to talk.
So what'd you think?
With unlimited commission-free stock trades and great ideas from real traders. Visit doe.com/TYT.
People still don't know what the word feminist actually means. Not even that, people are still angered by the word.
People think feminist is a bad word, but it's not.
There are gradations, there are different waves. The people who are against gender equality love to use like militant feminists as the representatives of all feminists. It's untrue.
I don't know why you'd be threatened by strong women unless you were an incredibly weak man. If you don't have equal rights, or you're not treated the same way, well, wouldn't you be angry?
The Monsanto Corporation continues to sell a herbicide called Roundup, but you should know that that herbicide is a potential killer. Recent studies have linked Roundup to significant increases in non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. That's a cancer that can be devastating to you and the people you love. While Roundup continues to cause cancer, Monsanto continues to make huge profits from the sale of Roundup. They will not take it off the market. If you or a loved one are exposed to Roundup at work or home and then developed non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, you may be entitled to financial compensation, and it's important for you to take action now and hold Monsanto accountable.
Cenk Uygur is not here today, which means that I will be able to talk during the show. Now,
We'll see.
Poor Cenk, under the bus.
My God, if Jesus came back, how much would the Republicans hate him? Now you have to give away all of your possessions to the poor. Steve King would be like, oh, Weezy.
Cenk is oddly, scarily competitive.
Oh, it's insane. I play basketball against him. It's just like, how are you good at this?
The liberal mom says, Mark Thompson, have you ever thought about doing one of those tapes that soothe people to sleep? Like Mark Thompson reads the phone book. I'd buy it.
If you'll buy it, I'll do it.
Emilio D'Amelio writes in, John, you are so thick. I love you. That's what he wrote.
Pork Chop Express writes in and says John Idarola needs a new jacket.
Whoa.
Those 24-inch pythons are about to burst out of his sleeve.
Gun, baby.
You know, the two people here said that their moms were both in love with you over Beauty and the Beast.
That's an improvement. I usually get grandmothers.
The Hour of Fire is brought to you by Brooke, and Brooke.
Yes, Brooke's got it.
Okay.
Take it.
All
you
right.
guys know I really like compliments.
Charlie Turk.
No, wait a minute, don't you dare.
Chemical castration when we return from the break.
All right, so that's it. We will settle it.
I want to see this.
Did Anna comment on my tan yet? No, she hasn't. Scandal at TYT.
You're a good boss.
But Anna did say that I come in here today with a fresh mind. That's all I'm about. I'm about a fresh mind.
I can't with you right now. Okay?
She just can't. She can't, but nonetheless, we have to for another 3 hours. I'm back, baby. Let's rip into Republicans. See, don't miss the live show.
That's great.
Tell people, if you're a member, you get the whole live show whenever you want, because this stuff doesn't go into any of the clips. All right, back on the Young Turks. Let's go to the comments. Is that Blue I See writes in, can't believe I get to watch the live show. Yeah, anybody can do that. It is, of course, every day, 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern on tyt.com/live. The Left First writes in, I only want more billionaires in the race if it means they break down in tears often. Hashtag I'm with Anna. A guy writes in, if Bloomberg wants to throw his money away, I'm willing to alleviate him of that affliction. That is mighty Christian of you.
Wow. Really fast, Bloomberg, just like help Mitch McConnell get beat. Like, there are so many better ways to spend your money. There's almost every better way to spend your money.
Although, guys, I forgot to mention this in the story. Keep in mind, this might actually help us. I mean, if he takes a couple of points away during the primaries, it's going to be from Biden.
Yeah.
So be careful what you wish for. You just might get it, right?
Yeah.
So Big Doc D Nice says, first and foremost, thank you for the birthday wish to my wife, D Nice. She really loved it. It made it seem like I have juice. That's funny. Cenk, I often disagree with you. Not funny or interesting. Okay. But the smile on my wife's face as you wish her happy birthday. We will always be good. Thanks. All right, thank you guys. You're members, we love you. You make the show happen. One on Twitter, John, I'd do anything to get the literal shirt off your back. Where can I find one? Hashtag the squad. So go to John's one shot here. So yes, this just came out on shoptyt.com, shoptyt.com. I realized I was wearing one earlier today.
Dodged a bullet. There.
Yeah, John and I always wear the same shirt on the same day. Anyway, so I changed in this one. But if you switch the order, it spells Arya, okay? If you had Ilhan before Ayanna. And it's not the way that Arya Stark spells her name, but they're all making a list.
If you switch it again, it could be RIAA, which I think is a regulating body of the government.
Okay, not as interesting, but okay.
Radio
we'll take it under advisement.
Possible sponsorship thing we can work on.
All right. Okay. Anyway, shoptyt.com. Oh, speaking of websites, if you want to see where Maz is going to be performing, which is all over the place, MazJabrani.com. MazJabrani.com. Definitely check that out. And there it is. Okay. And last one is our YouTube Super Chat. We always enjoy when you use YouTube Super Chat. In fact, on Monday, we're gonna do a special post game where you guys can ask us anything if you're on YouTube Super Chat. So the way you do that is simply on youtube.com/TYT. It'll be in the 8 o'clock hour on Monday, this upcoming Monday. And go ahead, comments, questions on that. But for now, I'll take two right now. Peter Hamby says, so Bloomberg, who has a lot of money, wants to spend a lot of money to save a lot of money? Sounds counterproductive to me. Not another centrist, okay? All right, I hear you on that. And Louis Hensoff says, Anna, I'm sure this is not a new suggestion, but it would be amazing if you were a guest of The View and correct our co-hosts in all their misinformation. We need progressives to go on that show. So every once in a while we'll get suggestions like this. Some shows don't want us on.
Yeah.
It is what it is. And it's not like sometimes it's spiteful. Bill Maher. Okay. And sometimes it's just, they're like, oh, I don't know, it's an online show. No one in power has ever gone online, right? So that's just the reality of it. But thank you for the suggestion. All right, John.
Agreed. Okay, let's have a little bit of fun, sort of. The author of the anti-Trump insider account of the White House, the anonymous official, is now out with a book, a warning, and there's a lot in it that Donald Trump is not going to like. So first of all, it is, as I said, anonymous. It was anonymous when it was an editorial. This person is not unmasking himself or herself now, but this person explains why, saying, I have decided to publish this anonymously because this debate is not about me, it is about us. It is about how we want the presidency to reflect our country, and that is where the discussion should center. Some will call this cowardice. My feelings are not hurt by the accusation, nor am I unprepared to attach my name to criticism of President Trump. I may do so in due course. We have a lot of crazy stuff we're gonna launch into for just a minute, but do you think that it might have been more effective or more powerful if we knew who it was?
I think perhaps the due course is right now when it would make a difference.
Or a year ago?
Or, we're literally in the middle of impeachment. I don't know if this person, as he's wobbly,
or she,
no, I'm saying as Trump is wobbly.
He, yeah.
That he or she, who's anonymous, Kellyanne Conway. Anyway, I don't know. Would deliver the knockout blow. Okay, that's all fair. But if you wait till after Trump is gone and go, ta-da, in due course, now I collected all the money. Now I'd like to get credit for criticizing him. But I didn't do it publicly when it mattered. You will get no credit. In fact, you'll get the exact opposite. No, you did hide like a coward if you come out after Trump is already gone.
I just don't know how in this day and age, this person, it's one thing to be like, I'm gonna write an op-ed piece and then go, okay, I'm not telling anybody. Then to write a book, I'm like, how do you get, how does that even happen that we don't find out who it is in this day and age? Maybe you've ever sent an email and one person that wasn't supposed to be on there was on there. You're like, oh no, I gotta pull it back, or a text or something.
Yeah.
I mean, there's gotta be this person is either living in the most heightened level of security and paranoia you can imagine, or there's, I mean, it's bound to come out. It's got to come out. Like there's got to be some, because if I tell you, see, they got to deliver the paperwork to somebody, right? You know, and you got to tell your publisher. So now you both know, and you might be at a dinner one time, a little, boozed up. No offense, but then, what I'm trying to say is, I don't know how they're getting away with a whole book out under anonymous, because then what that's letting the White House do is this, what's her name, the press secretary, Stephanie whatever. Grisham is saying, oh, exactly, coward, and it's all made up, and you gotta, get your fact check and blah, blah, blah. But if we knew who it was, if it were Mattis, or if it were Pence, or who, I know the joke being Melania, like you said, I mean, whoever it is, then it's like, okay, now we're face to face and we gotta test their credibility.
Well, I mean, I would have released my identity, but maybe they're worried that it'll affect the voting for Dancing with the Stars. I don't know. I'm not really sure. Anyway,
I do want to say one last thing about that, guys. Look, how do you not know who it is if you're Trump? Because now, to your point, it's a book, right? It's not just one op-ed. So that person had to be in all of those different meetings, and you can't figure out who it is. The person
wouldn't he have to read it though?
Exactly. The person who wrote this book knows that Trump is so stupid, he still won't be able to figure it out.
No, he won't. So let's figure out what can we learn from this official. He says the author describes Trump careening from one self-inflicted crisis to the next like a 12-year-old in an air traffic control tower, pushing the buttons of government indiscriminately, indifferent to the planes skidding across the runway and the flights frantically diverting away from the airport, which corroborates what we've seen, but that was an inside view of him doing that, not understanding. And by the way, you can find out more by reading the book, but also even just from the descriptions, goes more into depth about the fact that he has no idea what different government officials, what job they have. So he tells the Secretary of Defense to do stuff that the Secretary of State is supposed to do. For a lot of things, he just tells Jared Kushner to do it. He tells the AG to do things that the head of the FBI is supposed to do. He honestly doesn't know, and despite his assurances before his election, he refuses to learn. And that is why it's difficult for him to respond to crises, because he has no idea who he's supposed to actually coordinate with.
So that's why you hear him in the Ukraine call in the semi-transcript that was released saying, William Barr will reach out to you and Giuliani. But Giuliani is your personal lawyer. What does he have to do with the government? And Barr is the attorney general. What the hell does he have to do with Ukraine? No, if anybody were to reach out on official state business, it'd be the State Department. But he doesn't know anything. He's like, I don't know, I'm gonna pick random names out of a hat and they'll reach out to you. And Barr, when he saw that, he's like, what did you do? Why did you tell him I would reach out?
Yeah.
So, and now, at least with that sentence, it's not anyone in the Trump family.
But you know what they do?
Because that sentence was way too sophisticated for any Trump to write.
You know what they do again is the support he gets, and he said this in the election, and I talked about this in my stand-up special where I said, it's the one place where you go, I want an outsider, I'm an outsider, you want an outsider to go in there and clean it up. But no, we don't want an outsider. We want somebody who does know how government works. You know what I'm saying? I mean, maybe some level of outsiderness, but to be this guy who has been living in, the best example I can think of Trump is, he's our Muammar Gaddafi. He has lived in this world where he's just been having yes people around him forever. Muammar Gaddafi got to the point where he had these, he'd be like, I want a hot woman guard with a bazooka guarding me. And he had all these women in like a gold airplane guarding him. That's what Trump has kind of grown up with from the time he had yes men his whole life. And now we're like, go to the White House and go run this country. And as you said, he's telling the guy who's like, the Department of Agriculture to go do the defense thing, and Mike Giuliani's gonna get in touch, and my assistant will call you. He has no idea what he's doing, and no, we don't want an outsider. We want somebody, you know how stressful it is? Because every day I wake up waiting for that headline to say he left, just so I can breathe, whether you like him or not. It's like we're walking on eggshells. I heard Mark Maron talk about this. He said when Obama was in power, he goes, I didn't really know what was going on, but I felt like it was in good hands. But now you feel like at any moment, anything could happen, and it is. And you see the inside this book telling you. And the problem is this book, when you read some of the stuff the guy's talking about, you go, this sounds about right. This sounds like, you're not doubting it. You're not going like, no, he's making it up. Or I used to say, sorry, I'm ranting here a little bit. I'm getting inspired by you, Jay. No, when the thing happened, remember when the in Hawaii, they said that there's bombs coming from Korea and they had the bomb threat, and everyone was freaked out. And I thought to myself, I go, my God, we're living in this era right now where with this current president, I believed that North Korea was bombing us because he said something at some point.
Yeah.
You know, you don't think, you go, no, it's a false alarm. You go, it could be happening because this guy could have said something. So that's what you get when you get an outsider to go in and do the most important job in the world.
With an IQ of approximately 42.
The missiles are in the air and his response is, "Dear God, someone wake up Ben Carson." No, that's not, not him, you idiot. Anyway, okay, so in response to finding out, I believe this was in response to judges initially striking down the Muslim ban that he tried to put into effect. He apparently was quoted as saying, "Can we just get rid of the judges? Let's get rid of the expletive judges. There shouldn't be any at all, really."
There shouldn't be any judges at all, really. Okay, I mean, look, if you still support the guy, whatever, there's nothing I can do to help you, and you don't understand America at all, and you'd love to live in a tyrannical government.
Yeah.
There are no judges. How do you have any law? He said he was a party of rule of law and law and order. How do you have law and order without any judges? Guy's a total unbelievable moron and a criminal. You know who doesn't like judges? Criminals.
Yeah. So sort of related, has to do with discrimination. The author alleges that Trump attempted a Hispanic accent during an Oval Office meeting to complain about migrants crossing the US-Mexico border. Trump was quoted as saying, quote, "We get these women coming in with like 7 children. They're saying, oh, please help, my husband left me. They're useless. They don't do anything for our country. At least if they came in with a husband, we could put him in the fields to pick corn or something."
So was the Spanish accent when he said, "Oh, please help me, my husband left me"? Is that when he did a bad?
I'm assuming the whole thing. I don't know.
So guys, look, the bad accent. To Maz's earlier point, no one's surprised, and that wouldn't even make news at all.
Yeah, exactly.
But they're useless. If you are a Latino mom, he finds you useless. The only way that he would find you useful is if he could use your husband to pick corn.
Wow. Yes, now in terms of what might have happened to radically change the face of government, the anonymous author provides 2 things that came close to happening but didn't. One was senior Trump administration officials considered resigning en masse last year in a midnight self-massacre to sound a public alarm about President Trump's conduct, but rejected the idea because they believed it would further destabilize an already teetering government.
Yeah, look, what you're supposed to do when you have a mentally unstable and incompetent president. I don't mean incompetent overall. We've had, unfortunately, several incompetent presidents, including George W. Bush, who now is feeling like he's on top of the world because he's cleared the lowest bar in history. But what you're supposed to do is when the president is mentally incompetent, incapable of holding the office and executing his duties, we have something in the Constitution for that. It's called the 25th Amendment. You convene the cabinet and you say, yeah, the president is mentally damaged, so let's do something. You don't just, like, there's a method for this, and you really should. They should have done it from the get-go when they all realized, every one of them knows it. And now they're out of the administration, and you see your Mattis, you hear his former chief of staff, John Kelly, talking about like, well, John Kelly said, I'm worried that I shouldn't have resigned because I knew he'd get impeached if I resigned. Why? Because he's obviously a criminal and somebody has to stop him from being a criminal. And he's obviously mentally incompetent and everyone around him is a yes man. And so everybody knows this. Everybody who works with Trump knows that you're all following a madman, okay? The only people who don't know are the idiots in the red hats. So the Republican Party knows it. They're worried about the guys in the red hats and they're worried about losing their own seats. But we all know he's a lunatic and an idiot and all of these horrible things. But the comment about Latino woman coming in, just as when you think you can't get any lower, you're useless. You're useless. And well, your husband could be useful if he was a servant of ours. God damn it. And if you support him after hearing that, and then don't get surprised when we say you're racist. They're like, oh, I can't believe you called me racist. I think the only thing that Latinos are good for is picking corn, otherwise they're useless. Okay, if that's not racist, what the hell is? So it's not just him, it's his supporters that are the problem because they enjoy following this maniac.
But also it goes deeper because it's not just him denigrating these people, it's the fact that we need immigrants in this country and we're losing because he keeps saying, I want the best and the brightest. As an Iranian American, I know for a fact because of the travel ban, a lot of very smart Iranian students in Iran who've been accepted to top universities here have had their visas revoked and not been allowed to come here because he's playing politics. And the same thing goes for people that are trying to come here through asylum. We need those people, and instead of coming here, they're gonna end up in Canada and Europe and other places. So even if you're defending him on the other side and go like, yeah, we want the best and the brightest, or they should come here and do some work and whatever, they do come here and do work. They do come here and add to the economy. We need them in the economy. This dude is crippling us in the future with what he does, and they keep going to things like his son saying things like, well, the economy's good and the numbers are better, and therefore, I know he's got kind of a crude mouth sometimes. How far are we willing to go? How far are you willing to give up your own integrity to say that the economy's good, which, by the way, that's debatable as well. What caused the economy to be as good as it is? Is it as good as it is? We're not sure. Are people getting the benefits that they were supposed to? We don't know. But how low are we willing to go? How many people are we willing to put in cages? How many times are we willing to denigrate families that are trying to come here for a better life because you think that your stock prices are a little bit higher?
Yeah. By the way, you say that about Iranian immigrants, and I guarantee you the MAGA guys watching are like, I don't care how smart they are. I'm glad they're not coming. They're from Iran, and then they don't get that that's a racist thing to say.
Yeah.
Like they literally don't understand that. How could they help our economy? They're from Iran, man. Nobody from the Middle East is gonna help our economy. Well, there was an immigrant who had a son here. He was from Syria. Ugh, Syria. His son's name is Steve Jobs. Wound up helping the economy a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
When we break.
Another break. When we come back, tick, 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 tick.
Old school's pitched to me from Jank. It'll just be me, you, Jesus, Ben, and maybe Michael. And we're like, okay, cool. I can do that every week. As you can see, me, Jesus, Ben, Jank.
This is my problem with Forever 21. This is like a really cool turtleneck. Like it looks nice, it looks soft, it looks professional. I can wear it to work. And then you pick it up and turn it around and the back says taco booty. And it's like, what?
When you make the order, it says, don't exceed $20.01. So I'll just order literally anything to get it as close to that as I possibly can.
I'm sorry that I ordered $45 worth of food and got an email saying, sir, would you like to rethink that? What are you talking about?
And she was like, does mom know you curse that much? And I was like, I didn't curse at all in the movie. I played silent mom.
Right.
If you're looking for a heart attack, the short way, baby.
Wrong. I did put mayonnaise on it. I'm the most in shape, overweight person you'll find.
That's right.
We're in Hollywood.
I
Raise
know,
your hand if you're not a vegan.
Okay.
See, nobody.
He's like Kevin with Ben Affleck. He's like afraid to text me.
He was like, why didn't you answer my call? I called you 39 times.
Yeah.
But what makes you stop right before 40? What makes you say, nah, man, I ain't doing that no more. I'm cool.
And I called you back on the air. And I was like, okay, Kevin Smith, big shot. What the you said you'd come on and you didn't come on.
I'm sure I took that very well.
Yeah, you did. You called me back the next day and said, I thought it was 7 a.m.
I don't mean to get upset.
I was in hell. I was just like, oh my God, the theater's empty, nobody's here. Everyone on screen keeps cursing. Why did I let this happen? And the whole thing looks like it was shot through a glass of milk. My mom's gonna be so mad.
There's now deep fake porn. I don't know if you guys have heard of this.
Heard of it? I just had some in the car.
I'll tell you who I'm not fucking, Ben Mankiewicz. Have you guys ever felt that?
Not ever.
But I imagine you could be famous and not give a shit. But it's tough to be a human and not give a shit.
We gotta let the podcast guys go to TYT.com/join to become a member, get the whole show. And now it's just the three of us.
That's it.
Okay,
this is the intimate hour.
By the way, the last half hour of this, we're not even rolling.
He's a bad neighbor.
Neighbors know I'll be watching.
We're always
Please
gonna
tell me you do not waste your wife's time with this ridiculously stupid argument.
The Bad News Bears is a movie that taught an entire generation how to not win. How to lose gracefully.
See, I watch movies.
Kingsley.
I'm done with both of you.
Once Greg starts laughing, I can't stop. We're out of time. So
are we?
Yeah, I know.
That was 90?
Yeah.
I was just getting started.
And I was just gonna ask you about getting high.
Snoogans, Snoochie Boochies.
And members, of course, you can get the whole damn thing. TYT.com join and free trial. And old school with the old folks.
John, come back.
The Monsanto Corporation continues to sell a herbicide called Roundup, but you should know that that herbicide is a potential killer. Recent studies have linked Roundup to significant increases in non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. That's a cancer that can be devastating to you and the people you love. While Roundup continues to cause cancer, Monsanto continues to make huge profits from the sale of Roundup. They will not take it off the market. If you or a loved one are exposed to Roundup at work or home and then developed non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, you may be entitled to financial compensation, and it's important for you to take action now and hold Monsanto accountable.
Breaking news with Brett Ehrlich. This is Brett Ehrlich with Breaking News with Brett Ehrlich. Bernie Sanders wants to break Wall Street, and he wants to break it real bad.
All right, back on the Young Turks. Let's go to member section first. Bro420 writes, Maz, spot on with the Gaddafi reference. So, all right, I like that. Okay, there's a lot of Maz love here. Seth on Twitter says, just got released from a week-long hospital stay, and I'm super happy to see Maz Jabani on the power panel. Also, thanks to Cenk for the TYT t-shirt.
Oh,
okay, all right, there you go, Seth.
Glad you got out of the hospital.
Yes, and yeah, we're glad to see you're better, and shop TYT.com if you guys want shirts. Okay, Monica for Democracy says, I'm so thrilled with the responsiveness of the TYT app team. Only days after I suggested the app to get a homepage with the same personalization added to the site, it appeared. Boom, there you go, all right? So get our app wherever you get apps. Just type in TYT, you'll get it. Boom, you'll love it. You carry us around in your pocket. Be like, oh, look, there's Cenk. Wow, Sikterland, there's Anna.
It's 2 phones, huh?
Well, you need a burner one, obviously.
Yeah, that's true.
Can they swipe and have you pick them up like an Uber? That would be the feature.
Postmates, you just order us and 25 minutes later, we're there.
Boom.
No, but we do have Postmates if you're a member. That's actually a show, a game show that we did that's super fun. We got a new edition coming up at the end of the year. So definitely check that out, tyt.com/join to become a member and get all that great programming. All right, John.
Okay, here we go. All Donald Trump wanted for the first couple of years of his presidency was someone in a position of power and authority who would completely ignore his actual responsibilities and instead just protect Donald Trump from consequences for his crimes. And he finally thought he got it with William Barr. You probably remember when the Mueller report was about to be released, Barr had his little press conference where he effectively lied about what was actually going to be inside of it, and that distracted the media for a couple of days. But there apparently was a line that Barr was not willing yet to cross on protecting Trump when it came to Ukraine. We learned just about a day ago that President Trump asked that William Barr hold a news conference to declare that he had broken no laws in a telephone call with Ukraine's president that is now at the heart of the Democratic impeachment inquiry, but Mr. Barr declined. And apparently that wasn't the only way that Barr has sort of generated some friction with Trump during this scandal. Mr. Trump is apparently angry with the coverage that he's received so far, but also with Mr. Barr for urging him to release a reconstructed transcript of the telephone call with Ukraine's president. Again, it's not a transcript, it's sort of a summary, but insiders are saying that that was Barr's idea to release that. It was a horrible decision. Now, Trump wants you to know that it was his horrible decision. He's said that since he's been asked, but insiders are saying that it was in fact Barr who told him to do that.
Well, now we have this report of insiders saying that Trump is mad at Barr for making that wrong decision. What happened? I thought it was a perfect call. Why would you be mad about releasing a perfect call? If I released a perfect call, I don't know that such a thing exists, but if I was part of a perfect call, I'd want it released. I'd be like, look at this, guys, it's perfection. Right? So obviously they know that it was not a perfect call, and now they realize, oops, why did we publicly admit a crime? And now Barr, even Barr, who defended him through thick and thin, and who made up things that Robert Mueller didn't say and said it on national television, who was willing to do all of that stuff, is like backpedal, 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 backpedal. If Bill Barr is backpedaling, this is really, really bad.
Yeah. Now, Barr is apparently mad at Trump too. We'll get to that in 1 second, but Related to that, let's say this is true. Let's say it was Barr's idea. I can sort of see how Trump would read that transcript or be told what's in the transcript, receive the bullet points of the transcript and think it's okay. But Barr is corrupt, he's not stupid. How could he read that transcript and not think that that's gonna confirm what everyone already believed had happened?
You know what, since he refused to do the press conference saying, see, there was nothing wrong, John, I thought the same exact thing. As I was reading the story, I thought, is this Barr's way of saying, look, man, I didn't have anything to do with it, and I want him to release the transcript so that people know I wasn't doing a cover-up? Because if I'm hiding that transcript and he says in there that I'm supposed to call the Ukrainian president, maybe I get in trouble, right? Yeah. But if he releases it and I convince him to release it, then I get to say, hey, listen, man, I didn't call the Ukrainian president and I'm the one who released the transcript. Yeah. It might have been Barr in some ways throwing Trump under a bus.
Well, apparently Barr was bothered that Mr. Trump on the call lumped him together with Rudy Giuliani, like interchangeable parts of his personal defense team. But to be fair, the reason Trump did that is because he considers them to be interchangeable parts of his personal defense team. He thinks that the Attorney General is not our lawyer, it's his lawyer, that's what he's there for. And supposedly the two remain on much better terms than Trump was with his first Attorney General, Jeff Sessions. The president has apparently given Mr. Barr extensive leeway and largely deferred to his judgment, apparently on releasing that transcript. Mr. Barr has spoken with pride about how much Mr. Trump relies on him and treats him as a confidant, but potentially implicating him in this scandal might have been a bridge too far. And the thing is, like, whether our recently put together theory is true, Barr is a part of this scandal, one that it infuriates me that the Democrats haven't made a bigger part of this. When the whistleblower tried to go through the normal channels to raise concerns, Barr quashed it. He ended it there. That's the only reason the whistleblower had to go to Congress to try to start to communicate with people like Adam Schiff. It's because Barr tried to cover it up initially.
Well, Barr seems to be one of these Republicans who feels he's getting what he wants policy-wise, therefore he's trying to protect Trump. Because I can't imagine Barr's not walking away from meetings from Trump and going, what an idiot. I mean, you just know he's doing that, but he's also saying, well, I'm getting whatever I want, whether it's the judges or the conservative policies or the deregulations or whatever you want. Because Barr also, I was listening to this thing yesterday about how he's very religious, anti-secularist, has made statements against LGBTQ. He's very conservative. Yeah. So he's one of these guys who's a smart guy, getting what he wants, trying to protect Trump, but as you said, doesn't want to get in the middle and say, I was also part of this quid pro quo. And Trump is this paranoid conspiracy theorist. So even if you're on his good side, at some point you're gonna end up on his bad side.
Yeah.
Yes, 100%. Look, I guarantee you that a lot of people say this after the Trump administration is over, and I don't know if Bill Barr will be among them, but I'm pretty sure he'll think it, which is they'll say, look, I agreed with him and I was happy to serve him. And Bill Barr, Maz is 100% right, he's super conservative, unbelievably conservative, right? But what they're gonna say is, but I didn't know how stupid he was. Like, you can't be prepared for that until you're in a meeting with him and you're dealing with him day to day. Like, it's stunning how stupid he is.
Yeah.
So that's why he doesn't understand things like the Attorney General is not your personal lawyer. But I gotta give you a couple of quotes here that are devastating. Trump tweeted out recently when the Washington Post broke the story about how Barr didn't want to do the press conference. Quote, we both deny this story, which they knew before they wrote it, garbage newspaper. And then New York Times adds, Mr. Barr, however, did not publicly deny the account. So they are not on the same page, okay? And of course, Trump didn't check on that before he sent the tweet out. And finally, John Bolton. So I wanna give you two quotes here. He said, he is willing to defy the White House, according to a report came out today, willing to defy the White House and testify in the House impeachment inquiry about his alarm at the Ukraine pressure campaign. So here comes Bolton to Ramsey or otherwise to stretch out Donald Trump and perhaps deliver some vengeance for his own firing. But apparently Fiona Hill backs up Bolton as being not part of this and opposed to this, what he viewed to be a criminal undertaking in the Ukraine call. And here's her quote of Bolton. She's saying Bolton said this at the time. You go and tell Eisenberg that I am not part of this drug deal that Sondland and Mulvaney are cooking up.
Damn.
Whoa. Damn. So John Ramsey Bolton coming in to say, apparently, and hopefully soon in Congress, yeah, it was criminal. I knew it and I tried to stop it.
Man.
Wow.
Who needs binge watching when you got this administration? They just keep coming out. The characters, Fiona Hill was the one that was under Obama, right? And then, right? Am I right or am I wrong? No. Who was the one under? There was no Yates. That was Yates. Sally Yates.
Yeah.
It's all very. It's getting confusing now. But every day there's a new person coming out, and then every day the administration is trying to find new ways to denigrate them or defame them by saying, with Vindman, was that where they were saying, well, he speaks Russian, so he's got to be, or Ukrainian, whatever. Ukrainian, so he's got to be, his allegiance is elsewhere. Yeah. And who knows where they're going to go with, I don't know what they're going to do with Bolton. I don't know what their move will be if he actually comes out and says something.
Maybe
what are they going to say?
They're going to call Bolton a liberal.
He kind of looks like one with that mustache. He looks like a professor. Like I would think of him as like a liberal professor.
Yeah, I can't wait.
But he's not.
That's going to be the coup de grace of their alternative facts when they call John Bolton a progressive.
Yeah. They called Sondland a never Trumper. He gave Trump $1 million for his inauguration.
Yeah, that should have just broken truth.
It's ridiculous. And by the way, found out just recently, people have been pushing PBS to play the impeachment trial publicly as they did under Nixon, and it turns out as of today they are going to do that. From gavel to gavel, the entirety would be broadcast fully. Okay, so really fast, let's move on. Don Jr. has a new book that he intends to paint the left as being crazy, but the person who comes out of the accounts in the book looking the weirdest is actually Don Jr. Take a look at one section. He says President-elect Trump and the new first family were at Arlington National Cemetery where Trump was to lay a wreath on the tomb of the unknowns. Don Jr. says, I rarely get emotional, if ever. Yet as we drove past the rows of white grave markers in the gravity of the moment, I had a deep sense of the importance of the presidency and a love of our country. And that, if I were his editor, is where I would have ended the story. But unfortunately his editor didn't, it went on and he said, in that moment I also thought of all the attacks we'd already suffered as a family and about all the sacrifices we'd have to make to help my father succeed, voluntarily giving up a huge chunk of our business and all international deals to avoid the appearance that we were profiting off the office. So you soldiers who stormed the beaches of Normandy, yeah, that ain't nothing. I wanted to expand a golf course in Scotland.
Can I quote Hall & Oates on this? I'm out of touch, I'm out of touch. Donald Trump Jr. is out of touch. I think they kind of summed it up.
I think so.
Right? I didn't think we were going that direction today. Okay, so if you remember Donald Trump after the 9/11 attack, went on the radio immediately thereafter, and they said, well, how do you feel about this tragedy? We just lost thousands of Americans in the city that you live in and cherish. And he said, well, now I have, used to be the second tallest tower, and now I have the tallest tower in Manhattan.
Yep.
By the way, also not true. Okay, but that he bragged about now he has the tallest tower in lower Manhattan, okay? And then listen to all the things that Donald Trump Jr. says, even before you get to the atrocious stuff. He says, no, I rarely get emotional, if ever. What a weird thing to say.
Watch The View.
Yeah, I don't like, that's true. But like, what kind of a sociopath never gets emotional, right? But to the Republicans, it's like, yeah, I have no empathy, I have no emotion. Congratulations, really appreciate it. Thanks for letting us know. And then you gotta remember, of course, this is in the context, and this goes to how stupid he is and his dad are. Oh, I just went to Arlington National Cemetery and all those poor people who died so that my dad wouldn't have to go to Vietnam because he lied about his bone spurs.
Yeah.
Like if your dad is the coward who got 5 deferments from Vietnam, and I'm not saying everybody who got a deferment was a coward, but he was, Trump was, because it wasn't just for school. Afterwards, he had his daddy write him a note, a doctor that owed his dad a favor, and the New York Times broke that story, wrote a note for him pretending he had bone spurs. And when Trump was asked, which foot did you have the bone spur on? He's like, maybe both. Okay, so that's your dad, and you're writing about him visiting Arlington National Cemetery.
conservative, you're obligated to release a comedy special or a book that's called Triggered. But anyway, the way they designed the cover, you'll notice that's not what the name of the book is. That's because the design is very easy to Photoshop. And so some group went in and replaced the covers with Daddy Please Love Me. Everything I do for Daddy's love.
Oh my God.
Which, by the way, could have also been the name of Donald Trump Sr.'s book. And so, but finally, my favorite part of the book is they go to the Tomb of the Unknowns, as John told you, and Trump goes, "Who are these guys?" I'm kidding.
No,
that's funny.
But you thought it could be true, right?
That's my whole point. That you really believe that. Yeah.
We're shutting it down until we find out what's going on with these unknowns.
What they couldn't afford to get their names chiseled on the thing, on the tombstones.
All right, guys. Everybody check out monsterbounty.com so you can figure out where he's touring. Okay, everybody check out Damage Report, John's fantastic show. And when we come back, we've got Anna Kasparian and Cal Penn. Okay, right back.
I'm old enough that I remember when Captain Crunch put the berries in it.
Yay, crunch berries!
And I was like, ooh, the fake berries.
Remember?
We're gonna try that.
We did a story back in the day about how a woman sued, I don't know, General Mills.
She'd been eating it for 4 years, believing that it was actual berries. Yeah. She's like, these aren't real berries at all. I'm like, I got news for you. Captain Crunch isn't really a captain or a person. Joining me now, legendary whistleblower and American hero, Edward Snowden. First question is, hey, where are you?
I'm in my apartment in Moscow.
All of a sudden, in the studio, Jim Gaffigan, everybody.
Mental illness is, completely undiagnosed in our society.
It's not about a particular administration. It's about a broken system of power, and through that, really, the instrumentalization of a system of not justice, but injustice.
People understand whether they claim to deny climate change or not. Our collective house is in crisis. We're also dealing with the legacy of 40 years of economic policies that have made people's lives more precarious.
Sometimes you gotta force people into their humanity. Sometimes you have to shake people into empathy.
Senator Elizabeth Warren joins us in the studio.
Healthcare is a basic human right, and we are fighting for basic human rights.
In order to actually achieve that vision of everyone having access to the same resources and getting to determine the outcome of their life, we have a lot of work to do, and it needs to start right now.
Here's something you may not know. When you deposit your money in a big bank, it doesn't just sit, safe and secure, in a vault. Instead, your money could end up building oil pipelines, mining for coal, or drilling in the Arctic. So if you're concerned about the planet, give your money something good to do. Make the move to green with Aspiration's fossil fuel-free account and join the thousands each week who are switching to save their dollars and save the planet at the same time.
The Monsanto Corporation continues to sell a herbicide called Roundup, but you should know that that herbicide is a potential killer. Recent studies have linked Roundup to significant increases in non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. That's a cancer that can be devastating to you and the people you love. While Roundup continues to cause cancer, Monsanto continues to make huge profits from the sale of Roundup. They will not take it off the market. If you or a loved one are exposed to Roundup at work or home and then developed non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, you may be entitled to financial compensation, and it's important for you to take action now and hold Monsanto accountable.
Cenk Uygur joins us.
We are progressive and unapologetically so. Very happy to say that millennial and Gen Z generations are massively progressive along with us.
Democrats, they've been so weak for so long. For God's sake, fight for your side.
I would not like to compromise with Republicans. I would like to defeat them. Lynn, do you support Donald Trump?
Yes, I like Donald Trump.
Well, that's why we think you're racist. The 5 black kids in Central Park did not commit the rape. He said, who cares? Keep them in prison anyway. They probably did something. He's a terrible guy. Very fine people on the side chanting, Jews will not replace us. He says we should ban all Muslims. Well, that's bigotry by definition. He said it during the campaign trail over and over again. Called Latinos criminals and rapists. See, you're used to Republicans being strong on television and Democrats cowering. New day in America. Progressives, we actually fight back.
Drop it. All right, look at this power panel. Jake Ugranic is very Cal Penn, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay. You might know a couple of things he was in. Harold and Kumar, House, and he's got a show called Sunnyside now, but there's like 28 other things. Okay, all right. So I'm gonna talk to Cal in the third hour. We're gonna do a full interview, but as you guys know, in the second hour, we're gonna do the news, and Cal's gonna do the news with us.
Yeah.
So great to have you here, brother.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the second thing you're obviously wondering about is, wait, did Cenk just take John's shirt right off his back?
Yeah, do we sell that shirt now?
Yeah, we do.
You do?
Shop2YT.com.
That's a pretty cool shirt.
Right.
I noticed it in the monitor, but like right when we were coming in, I'm like, I need that shirt.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. That's right. Shop2YT.com. You too, Calico. You'll have to buy one.
I'll buy one. That's fine.
That's how cheap we are. Okay. No, seriously, guys. No, I did not literally take it off of John's back. So one of you pointed out I had a stain on my shirt, so I got my own.
Also, John is like super swole these days, so.
Yeah, I know. But imagine me fitting in a John shirt. Okay, what was the thing from Tommy Boy? Fat man in a little shirt.
Oh my God. Okay.
All right, Anna, go.
All right. Well, we start off with a little bit of good news. Donald Trump has made a rare admission to guilt in a case involving his own charitable foundation. Now, as we've talked about several times on this show, he was using his own charitable foundation to enrich himself, to pay off his own legal settlements, and to buy portraits of himself. And there was a case in regard to this, and luckily prosecutors did go after him, and now a judge has ruled, a state judge in New York has ruled that he must pay $2 million in damages to nonprofits after he has finally admitted guilt in this case. So New York's Attorney General had filed suit last year accusing Trump and his family of using the foundation as an extension of his businesses and his presidential campaign. The settlement, which was finalized last month and announced on Thursday in the judge's order, included a detailed admission of misconduct that is rare for the president. Now, while he admitted guilt in this case, on social media it's something completely different, right? And this is what he does. He gets away with it with his base. He says things like, quote, "All they ever found was incredibly effective philanthropy. How do you say that?
Philanthropy.
Philanthropy, there we go. Philanthropy and some small technical violations." That's not the case at all. Again, he used funds from that charitable foundation to pay settlements. He used it toward his campaign. He used it toward businesses. I mean, this alone would be a giant scandal in any other presidency.
He said, I'd given, quote, 100% of the funds to great charities. No, you literally just admitted that you did not do that. You did the opposite of that, right?
Yeah.
And if you're wondering why would Trump admit to doing things that were nefarious and illegal, et cetera, he doesn't like to admit doing any of that stuff. That's two reasons. One, it's a settlement, so that way he only has to pay $2 million. If they went to trial, he might have to pay a lot more than that, and he ain't that rich, so that bothers him greatly. But secondly, if they went to trial, then everybody would get to see all the terrible things that he did with his charity. And so for the MAGA guys, the fact that he broke campaign finance laws in the charity, they're gonna be like, whatever, dude, he's broken like 17 campaign finance laws, besides which we're too thick-headed to understand that. He bought a portrait of himself, hilarious, but they're like, whatever, it's the best portrait there is. But he paid off his business debts, and everybody gets that. You raise money for whatever you raise, cancer research, whatever, and then you take it to pay your bills? Oh, you're a really bad dude.
Yeah, and remember during the election, he had raised money through his charitable foundation for veterans and had absolutely no intention of actually giving the veterans that money until the media followed through on that story and called him out. And then at that point, he had to actually use those funds for what they were raised for.
Who donates to his foundation? Do we know this? Has anybody written about this?
Yeah, so in the past, I think the New York Times wrote about it, and it's people that he pressures, and it's a scam because the funny thing is, Cal, it's a great question because he doesn't donate to his own charity.
Yeah, right.
In the beginning, in the early years, he put in a little bit of money into the charity. And later he's like, what am I doing putting money into a charity? It's like, no, he pressures other people who are his allies to put in money to his charity, and then he funnels some of that money to himself because he's an obscenely bad guy.
Yeah, and this is a small settlement compared to what he had to pay in damages as a result of the fraud involved in Trump University, right? So right before his inauguration, he had to settle that case to the tune of $22 million. So he's a scammer. I mean, he's been a scammer, we know that. And this is, I don't know, maybe the first time in America where the president just gets away with it. Like the base is undeterred. They think that this is totally fine.
Could you imagine if Obama had run a fake charity and funneled the money to himself? And one of the things that he did was, but I think it was a it's a $10,000 portrait of himself. If Obama had said, hey, I'm raising this money for kids with cancer and all the other wonderful charities I'm gonna give it to, but instead he bought portraits of himself, what do you think conservatives would do? What do you think Fox News would do, right? And Cal, you were in Obama's White House.
Yeah. Dude, I was there. I remember the day that he killed a fly during an interview. Do you remember this?
Oh, I do remember.
And the news went crazy, and we were trying to, I think, look, I worked on outreach, right? Mostly around young people and Asian American Pacific Islander issues. But I think we were trying to get the word out about the American Opportunity Tax Credit or something, something that would actually help millions of young people. And the only thing that the press was covering was that how dare he kill a fly? And did you see that Obama killed a fly? And then some of them, the left-leaning ones, were like, well, he killed the fly on the first try. I'm like, can we just not at all talk about the fly and talk about the thing that we're trying to do? So yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I almost wish he had spent how much money on the portrait of himself?
10,000.
Yeah, sure, why not? It doesn't matter anymore, why not?
Okay, so guys, one more thing about this. Look, do I have to explain to you that you can't do self-dealing in a charity, that you can't act in your own self-interest? So the judge said, not only am I fining him $2 million, and the remaining 1.7 million in the charity will be directed to actual charities, perhaps for the first time, right? But on top of that, I'm gonna quote the New York Times here. Mr. Trump agreed that any charity he becomes involved with in the future will have a majority of independent directors, lawyers with expertise in nonprofit law, and an accounting firm to monitor its grants and expenses. In other words, this guy is an obvious scam artist, and if you leave him to his own devices without anybody else checking him, he will obviously steal the money again. And so, and Anna, you used the word scam, and that's a great point. This is the second time, as you pointed out, there's Trump University, now the Trump Foundation, that he himself admitted, these are admissions of guilt, that he's a professional scam artist. He's twice admitted, yes, I scam people to get money. Here's $22 million back for the scams I did on university, and here's $2 million back for the scam I did in my charity. Professional scam artist, that's who our president is.
Well, there are people who are unhappy with the way that Donald Trump is conducting business, the way he is governing the country. And so he's been booed quite a bit at sporting events, but some universities are gonna put a stop to it. So let me give you that story. Trump is set to attend the football game between Alabama and LSU. He's going to travel to Tuscaloosa over the weekend just to watch the game. And as we all know, he's been booed at a few sporting events as of late. And so interestingly enough, the vice president for student affairs at the University of Alabama put out a notice indicating that any organizations that engage in disruptive behavior during the game will be removed from block seating instantly for the remainder of the season. So this was a clear message to anyone who was planning on protesting, planning on maybe being difficult toward the president. Hey, if you give us a hard time, if you give the president a hard time, we're gonna get rid of your tickets, you're out. And so luckily there was a lot of backlash to that. And you have administrators at the university backpedaling a little bit. So first, let's go to a statement from the University of Alabama SGA. The SGA strongly affirms its belief in free speech and the rights of all students to express their opinions. And then the VP of Student Affairs also released a statement saying some have misinterpreted my comment regarding disruptive behavior. By disruptive behavior, we are asking students to be respectful to all students and staff and avoid altercations. My email has nothing to do with anyone's First Amendment rights, and I am sorry for any confusion. Please express yourself and especially your pride for the Tide. And it appears that the Trump inflatable baby will make an appearance at the game.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Fun for everybody.
Cool.
Okay, does anybody think he didn't originally mean don't boo the president?
No.
Come on.
So we all know that, right? But hey, look, I'm glad he's backpedaling, so that's good. But the minute I saw this story, now I know Trump won Alabama by 28 points, but I thought he's gonna get booed again. So he thinks in his mind, oh, Alabama, those are my people. Those are my people. Oh, and by the way, why is he going to a random college football game? My guess, and it's a guess, is this: he got so mad that he got booed at the baseball game, so he went to a UFC fight thinking these are my people, and he got booed again at the UFC fight. That's in Madison Square Garden, and he thought, God, I guess they weren't my people, but I was in New York. I'll go to Alabama. Then I'll show them how much people love me, right? But they're college students. 80% of the young are progressives. So I'm not saying that all the Alabama people that are there, first of all, a lot of people in the stands won't be college students, right? I'm sure he'll get some cheers, but my guess is he'll also get plenty of boos. And he won't see that coming at all.
Yeah, and I also, when I was reading this statement, the penalty is what? You lose your block of tickets for the rest of the season? It's November, go protest peacefully. Right?
Yeah.
So you lose your tickets for how many games? Maybe 3 games?
I know, but Cal, come on. It's Alabama, okay?
Again, time to shine. Time to show folks who you really are, if you want. Or if you don't want, maybe football's more important to you, I don't know.
Like losing your season tickets to the Alabama games is like the death penalty in Alabama.
Again, I get it. I'm just saying, come to your campus. Be respectful in a particular way, but what's the worst thing that happens? 3 games.
Also, I wonder if he's gonna go there to do anything in regard to that Senate race that Jeff Sessions is throwing his hat in.
Oh, good point. I hadn't thought of that.
That might be fun.
Yeah, so if you guys didn't see, Jeff Sessions, so we told you yesterday he was gonna run for the Senate seat, and on Tucker Carlson last night, he said he's going to, but then he put out this hostage video where he had to humiliate himself and basically beg the president not to attack him. Oh, so embarrassing. Oh, so wonderfully humiliating.
That is exactly the reason why all the people who surround Trump and all of these Republican members of Congress support Trump, even though behind closed doors they despise him, they say all these terrible things about him. It's because they're just doing what's best for their political careers. They don't care about the well-being of the country. They don't care about what Trump is doing to the Constitution or to our democracy. They just care about the future of their own political careers, and they're so afraid of Trump's base. For good reason. I mean, if they do only care about their career's over if they're actually gonna go out there and criticize him.
I actually think there's a way that he could have threaded that needle by saying, look, I agree with all of Trump's policies. Obviously, we had some personal differences, but everybody in Alabama knows I'm a super right-winger and an unbelievable conservative, and people might have respected that. Yeah, I don't know if you guys remember Carly Fiorina when they were running in 2016. She was running against Trump and all these people, and I think the Iowa team was playing against, I was trying to remember which one, but I think it's University of Iowa, was playing against her alma mater. She's like, well, even though I like my alma mater, I'm gonna have to root for Iowa today. And everybody was like, oh, you pathetic, I can't, politician, slimy. That doesn't win you any fans in Iowa, nobody respects that. So when Sessions goes and grovels to Trump, I don't think that helps his cause. And you know Trump, so that's a great point, Anna. He might just come out and be like, not good enough, okay?
Yeah, he's still salty.
Still don't like the Keebler elf.
I'm disappointed, right? Disappointed that he recused himself. Disappointed he did the right thing. So I'm gonna continue retaliating against him. That's who Trump is. Anyway, we're gonna take a quick break. When we come back, a terrible new policy from Las Vegas, Nevada. What are they planning on doing about the homeless population there? well, they're gonna go ahead and criminalize them. So I'll give you the details on that and more when we return.
Now baby, move that fat, baby, move that fat. We thugged out.
What's J&A?
Jacori and Arthur.
You guys share a mug?
Yeah, you both take our hot cocoa black.
That doesn't make any sense.
Plus, I'm right-handed and Arthur's left-handed, so our lips wouldn't even touch the same area. It's perfect.
No, I'm not left-handed.
What do you mean? I've seen you type with your left hand.
Yeah, and also with my right hand. That's how typing works.
So this is what democracy looks like.
When I think back to the debates in 2016, this was a very different party that was debating.
First time in my lifetime that I've actually had progressives represent us.
Bernie Sanders has changed the arithmetic.
This whole debate tonight was shaped by progressives.
We have to live our values every day in a campaign.
She came with receipts. That was her strongest moment by far.
This is going to be one of the best primaries we've ever seen.
This is what we've been saying would happen, and now it's playing out on the debate stage.
The Monsanto Corporation continues to sell a herbicide called Roundup, but you should know that that herbicide is a potential killer. Recent studies have linked Roundup to significant increases in non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. That's a cancer that can be devastating to you and the people you love. While Roundup continues to cause cancer, Monsanto continues to make huge profits from the sale of Roundup. They will not take it off the market. If you or a loved one are exposed to Roundup at work or home and then developed non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, you may be entitled to financial compensation, and it's important for you to take action now and hold Monsanto accountable.
We are onto something that is going to be amazing, but what we need is your help.
The number one problem is there's too much power in too few hands.
Every single problem that we have can be traced back to dark money.
They take large donors, they serve large donors.
So these handful of gatekeepers try to dictate everything.
Like all of you already know, they don't work for you, they work for their donors. So fire them and hire people who will only work for you that say no corporate backed money.
We are going to change the way we elect candidates in this country.
Uncorrupted Democrats. We're gonna fight for the issues and win on policy.
This is incredibly personal. We need free healthcare for everyone.
We're fighting for $15 minimum wage, single payer healthcare, debt-free college, and we are gonna get money out of politics once and for all.
I've taken a public pledge not to accept any corporate money.
Because the last thing we're gonna do is go into another presidential election and run a corporatist against a populist candidate.
At some point, the buck needs to stop, and it's gonna stop with us. It's gonna stop with Justice Democrats.
So who are we?
People who do not take corporate PAC money.
We're relying on small donors.
99.9% of our contributions came from people.
You're a Justice Democrat, so you don't take any corporate PAC money.
I'm not influenced by money.
As a Justice Democrat, I made that pledge.
Not a betting. Absolutely no.
I will go to Congress unbossed and unbought.
We try to create a government which works for all of us.
That is what America's about, and that's what a representative democracy should be about.
We are just getting warmed up here.
Vote for uncorrupted Democrats. The fight starts now, it starts today, and it starts with you.
I've been honest with him. Like, yeah, I was upset with you and I shouldn't have done it. But instead I was like, I'm just trying to protect my engagement ring.
All right, back in the Young Turks. A lot of callbacks in the comment section about the perfect call. Gabby Marita says, the only perfect call I've ever been on was when my husband accidentally pocket dialed me while seeing Barbie Girl in his car.
Oh my God.
That does sound pretty good. Eclectic Miss Chelania says, new Hostmates for the end of the year. Best news I've heard in a long time. Well worth the price of membership.
Jake and I will make sure to protect our win from last year.
That's right. Anna and I are co-champions right now as things stand. Anyway, tyt.com/join. Check out the old Hostmates and the new one coming up by the end of the year. Now, a lot of comments about the shirt. Solomon Grundy says, you can't get the shirt off of John's back nowadays. He's so ripped, he must have sewn it into those things. Hashtag ripped geek. Okay, all right. And that's what John is. A geek. Anyway, Fried Circuits on YouTube Super Chat
So
says,
salty, Jake.
I know. Hey, you get to be salty if you weigh this much. Fried Circuit says, I wonder how Trump would look like in a uniform. That's on YouTube Super Chat. Thank you for using that.
Like a prison uniform?
Oh, that would be good.
I would love to see that. That'd be good.
Yes.
Really good.
And last one is Gene Geeter on Twitter. Use hashtag TYT Live. Talk to us during the show on Twitter. He said, we need a TYT shirt with Cenk's famous sayings on it. Tick, 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 of course. Go tell Randy Gonzalez, all this. So I talked to the thugs at shoptyt.com about the tick, 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 tick shirt. One of their concerns was for people who don't watch the Young Turks, they're like, if you're going around in a shirt that just says tick, 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 then it might create issues.
You could have some imagery there that makes it clear that you're talking about Trump.
I know, but if you put a picture,
I couldn't wear that to the airport, no matter what else was on. There's no way.
Just keeping it real. That's all we're doing. Okay. All right, but check out all the shirts we have at shoptyt.com, including this one. Okay. All right, Anna, what's next?
Homelessness continues to be a giant problem in many big cities throughout the country, and the city council in Las Vegas has decided to approach this in the worst possible way. They are essentially citing homeless individuals who sleep on the streets. Now, the Las Vegas City Council is slated to vote on an ordinance that would make it illegal to camp or sleep on the streets in parts of the city. Drafted in September, the ordinance would make it a misdemeanor to rest, sleep, or lodge in Las Vegas's downtown district and other residential areas if shelter beds are available. Now, here's part of the problem. Most of the time, there aren't enough, actually all the time, there aren't enough shelter beds available for homeless people to find any refuge in. So the violation could cost individuals as much as $1,000, and if they don't pay that citation, they could end up in jail for up to 6 months. Now, if that happens, clearly they would have something on their record which would make it even more difficult for them to find work in the future. So it will take a problem and make it an even bigger problem. Besides which, where are people supposed to go if there is literally nowhere for them to go, right?
So much to say about this. First of all, to Anna's point, there's approximately 7,500 homeless people in that county. You know how many beds are available in the shelters? 2,000. So they say, well, it's illegal if you, but only if the shelters are completely occupied. They're completely occupied every night. So this bill doesn't make any sense at all. It's, in other words, it's saying you can't win and we don't care. We don't care about you at all. Which leads to point number 2. The business community said, oh no, this is to help the homeless. And the mayor said the same thing. Because then they'll seek out assistance, right? They probably should not have said this. It turns out the supporters of the ordinance are the Downtown Vegas Alliance, a 60-member business group that includes hotels and gaming companies. And they did at some point say, it's quote, a necessary first step to help protect those who have made significant investment in the area. In other words, not to help the homeless at all, to help people who made a significant investment. And that's of course the billionaires who run those casinos.
So we know that there's a widening wealth gap in the country. And we also know that housing has become unattainable for a lot of people. People are being priced out of communities that they've lived in their entire lives, for generations in some cases. And so oftentimes when we talk about the wealthy wanting to build moats around their homes or their mansions, it's usually in the context of climate change and how, you gotta live on this planet. You can't just keep on living the way that we're living. You can't keep relying on fossil fuels and do what we're doing to the planet and think that you're gonna protect yourself from it by building these moats. The same applies to the income gap and the wealth gap in America. So, all right, you're a business owner, and I understand, I see it every day. I live in Los Angeles. You see homeless people sleeping on the steps of, the business. And people get frustrated by that. They're worried that it's gonna drive away customers. That's a legitimate concern. But going after them in this way with misdemeanors, with citations, isn't gonna make the situation any better. It's actually gonna make the problem a lot worse. So we need to find ways to make this economic system a little more equitable so people are able to afford housing. I mean, it's no surprise that homelessness is a big problem in major cities where housing costs have gone through the roof.
Yes, and we know the things that work and the things that don't. Dallas tried this. They did 11,000 citations between 2012 and 2015. So homelessness went down, right? Nope. In the next 3 years, homeless population roughly doubled in Dallas. So it doesn't work. You know, ironically, a city that did something different that did work, Las Vegas. They actually decided they were going to do supportive housing and assisting people with rent. You know what happened when they did that experiment? Homelessness went down 13%. So if you actually want to get rid of the homelessness problem and you don't even care about the homeless, this is a counterproductive way of doing it. And think about how much it costs too. So they're charging $1,000 fine to homeless people. Obviously, they're not going to be able to pay that fine, right? If they could pay that fine, they'd get housing. Which homeless person has $1,000 roll on them? Like, oh yeah, I was gonna go gamble, but here you go, right? No, but 6-month jail sentence. Do you have any idea how much that costs? That's crazy.
It's big business for private prisons though.
Yeah, if you spent a fraction of that money actually helping them to get housing, you'd have less homeless and you'd be a decent person and you'd save money. But no, we don't wanna do that. Because it's driven by guys, look, I don't know who was behind this. I do know one of the guys who owns a giant casino in Las Vegas is Sheldon Adelson, who is one of the biggest right-wing donors in American politics. And he is absolutely ruthless. Again, I don't know that he's involved in this particular ordinance. I do know all the casinos wanted to be ruthless to the homeless. But again, in a completely unproductive, counterproductive way that doesn't help anybody.
All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we have a little bit of whining from Ben Shapiro. He feels aggrieved at people blaming him for inciting violence. So we'll discuss what his concerns are, provide some evidence of him inciting violence, and probably dunk on him a little bit. We'll be right back.
Sounds fun.
Hi, I'm Bartholomew Joseph Kyle. I do audio for the main show, The Young Turks. I also do audio for Post Game. I started in 2006. I met Cenk Uygur at the Iraq for Sale screening that was directed by Robert Greenwald. And watching that, I want to figure out a way to be part of something that's genuine and authentic.
The Monsanto Corporation continues to sell a herbicide called Roundup, but you should know that that herbicide is a potential killer. Recent studies have linked Roundup to significant increases in non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. That's a cancer that can be devastating to you and the people you love. While Roundup continues to cause cancer, Monsanto continues to make huge profits from the sale of Roundup. They will not take it off the market. If you or a loved one are exposed to Roundup at work or home and then developed non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, you may be entitled to financial compensation, and it's important for you to take action now and hold Monsanto accountable.
I'll predict right here for you, Chris. I think Donald Trump will leave office before his term is up. He'll be humiliated, embarrassed, and I know him. He's not going to want to lose, and he's going to run for the hills.
You got that bet? all day long.
Okay, let's get after it. Now, so look, Jake has made some good predictions, and this is in good fun. I could not disagree more.
There's a little bromance between the two of them. You got that bet all day long, Janky, you. Oh, you stop. In the meantime, let's call him out on the damage.
But
I just got a Roku set. That'll basically a little bit of channel surfing, and I was like, there we are.
Yeah.
There we are. And then I turned it on, and it was John and Brett on Damage Report making fun of me.
Oh no.
So you are so busted. I even took a picture of it, okay? And they're talking about my predictions. I got a new prediction for you, John Idarola.
You're doing a show that's blowing the doors off everybody.
Young Turks is the largest online news network, not a big deal. We're gonna rock the boat. We're gonna be counter-establishment. We're gonna tell people the truth to the best of our abilities. We're so sick of this corruption. We're not the robots on TV. I actually care about the news. Guilty, I care. Fourth day on Occupy Wall Street. Last night we launched Wolfpack. It's us pushing our ideas out there, trying to help the country in every way that we can, trying to make this place just a little bit better. Reporting from the Hillary-Bernie debate, I gotta be honest, you know what we do, we cover it for real. For us, this system isn't working. Free and fair elections.
And when he told the cops that day, when they came to drag her away, and he said, if you're gonna chain her, you're gonna chain me. If you're gonna arrest her, you're gonna arrest me.
All right, we're back in the Young Turks. We're gonna go and from serious to lighter comments here as we do this. I'm gonna go to YouTube Super Chat first. Vitruvian Man writes in, Republicans will definitely call Hunter as a witness, Biden is toast, establishment panicking, hence the Bloomberg pandering. Well, that's an interesting theory. I don't know that they are allowed to call Hunter Biden, but probably, and so let's see how that develops. But I don't think that's why they're panicking. They're panicking because Elizabeth Warren caught Biden in the polls. That's why they're panicking. Anam Leith writes in on Twitter, when I was homeless, I couldn't risk my dogs by going to a shelter. My dogs hunting kept me from starving. There was a whole camp of us with dogs and cats hidden in the city down by the river. After I got off the street, Des Moines bulldozed the camp without warning. Wow. Guys, it's super serious. First of all, thank you for writing that in. That's amazing that you shared that story. Second of all, in the Las Vegas story, a lot of them, in order to avoid detection, are going into the underground drainage system. So that's already really sad. But what's worse is that sometimes there's flash floods and then they drown. So we gotta help these folks. We gotta help them. And anyway, but thank you for writing it. Now on to lighter stuff. Chikatsu Cosplay says, I smoked before the show and forgot Cal Penn was on. Turned on the show and was like, yo! WTF Kumar doing on TYT?
That's right. Enjoy. Smoke some more. It'll only get better for you.
But to be fair, he continues and says, seriously though, Sunnyside is great, and Kumar is a legendary character of cinema.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That means a lot.
All right.
That means a lot.
And then Wyatt C. Hill in the member section says, I've been a huge fan of TYT for years, but mainly downloaded the audio from the show. Wow, I've been missing out on some awesome video production. Well, thank you, Wyatt. We appreciate it. We appreciate anybody watching or listening to the show, tyt.com/join, so you can get all the shows anytime you want. And last one, Top Cat says, seriously, TYT needs a 420 show. So you come on the show and then all of a sudden.
It happens.
With all the changes in the legal status and new products, time to prepare and move into the industry safely. Okay.
I would happily produce that show.
I hear you. We did have an old school episode where a bunch of us did smoke out in the back and then did the show. So nice. From time to time, we'd have a little bit of fun. Okay. All right, Anna, what's next?
So this isn't a prepared story, but I just wanted to make a quick announcement because it is big news out of Brazil. So a political prisoner by the name of Lula has been released from prison. Again, he was a political prisoner, okay? Jair Bolsonaro, with the help of an incredibly crooked judge, Judge Moro, found a way to wrongfully imprison him. There was no wrongdoing, and Lula was going to win that election based on the polling. He was the front runner by miles, and Jair Bolsonaro again found a way to make him a political prisoner. He has just been released, and part of the reason why he's been released is because of the incredible reporting that Glenn Greenwald did.
Who, by the way, was attacked the other day in a radio interview, physically attacked.
Yeah.
Greenwald was. So great job by The Intercept and Glenn Greenwald on this story. And look at that, good reporting leads to actual justice. Lula was incredibly popular. There was absolutely no question he was going to win that election. Continues to be popular. And I didn't know that until Anna just said it. It's a breaking news story. And so that's wonderful news. Wonderful news that Lula's out.
And Michael Brooks, who's a friend of the show, has been doing great reporting on it as well. He'll be on the show next week on Friday to do the power panel with us. So I'm sure we'll discuss it a little more.
Okay, by the way, since we're talking about big news, don't miss the show next week. Giant announcement, massive, and you'll be probably a little shocked. So fun for everybody in the middle of next week, okay? All right, Anna.
The fact that they think that this is now putting people at risk, that it is incitement. My language is incitement by virtue of the fact I disagree with it. I've never called for violence against anybody. This is complete insanity.
That's Ben Shapiro getting incredibly defensive about the rhetoric he uses regularly, both on his show and in the speeches he gives on college campuses. Now, there has been an increasing number of violent situations, and usually there is politics at the center of it, right? So we have the shooting in El Paso, Texas, that was motivated by an individual who had an anti-immigrant agenda. And so it's important to have a discussion about rhetoric and how it could influence or incite violence. Well, Ben Shapiro is aggrieved because he feels that people are blaming him for something that he's not guilty of. And here he is making that case.
This is a line that the left likes to use a lot, is that if they hear something they don't like, they've now been put at risk. They've been put at risk. When you come in my speeches, if you've ever been to one of my college speeches, nobody's at risk at any point. People who disagree are allowed to go to, are told that they should go to the front of the line so that they can ask questions. Everything is very respectful. Everything is very civil. And the fact that they think that this is now putting people at risk, that it is incitement. My language is incitement by virtue of the fact I disagree with it. I've never called for violence against anybody. This is complete insanity. But this is how they try and throw you off campus, is they say that your language is inherently inciting. Why? Because I say that transgenderism, gender dysphoria, gender identity disorder is a mental illness. How is that inciting? I don't believe that people with mental illness should be harmed in any way, God forbid. That's ridiculous. I'm talking about the classification of a disorder. And it's categorized as a disorder in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual. Okay, in any case, they continue. We do not protest because we are too sensitive to hear opinions we don't like. We protest because we are strong enough to defend ourselves. Well, no, I'm pretty sure it's because you're too sensitive to hear opinions you don't like. Because it's not just that you're protesting, it's also that you say that Stanford is complicit in putting students at risk.
The fact of the matter is, Ben Shapiro uses the type of rhetoric that certainly does lead people to believe that certain groups of people are dangerous, that they pose a threat. One of the tweets that has come back up over and over again is the one that he had in regard to Arabs. He had tweeted, "Israelis like to build, Arabs like to bomb crap and live in open sewage. This is not a difficult issue." And so that was his response to violence that had broken out between Palestinians and Israelis. And then, of course, after Beto O'Rourke had proposed doing away with assault weapons, he was one of many conservatives who threatened civil war, who threatened violence if that type of proposal actually went through. Jordan Ewell from Media Matters did a great job in putting together a mashup that shows you just how serious this rhetoric is. Take a look.
I now have two choices. One is to leave the country utterly. Two is to pick up a gun. Those are the only choices that you have left me.
But we are at a breaking point in terms of an emotional civil war with violence that will spill into our streets. It's happening now. Our leaders must take responsibility for this.
Socialism cannot take root if the American people are armed.
I think you underestimate the passion and the protectiveness of suburban Christian moms. This will start a war in this country.
Beto O'Rourke does not get to raise my child. And if he tries, I will meet him at the door with a gun.
It's not a hoax. It's not a witch hunt. It's not a tantrum. This is serious business. This is the stuff of which perpetual wars have begun.
If you mess with our private institutions that we have worked very hard to protect and to protect the religious liberty of, you will start a war.
Civil war kind of stuff is very scary when you think about the way that the division continues to happen in this country because of the mantra of the left and fake news.
So civil war is scary, so stop threatening to do civil war if a policy you don't like is actually passed. And by the way, Beto O'Rourke proposed something on a debate stage and they all lost their minds and started threatening civil war, started threatening to meet law enforcement at their front door with guns. I don't know what they're talking about. Why do people think that I'm inciting violence? My language is perfectly fine.
First of all, Blue Lives Matter. So when you, I mean, you guys are the ones that say that, right? But all of a sudden, when you don't agree with someone, I'm gonna meet the cop at the door with a gun. Okay, what are you gonna do with that gun? On a slightly lighter note, though, I like that he's like, I will murder Beto rather than having him raise my children. I'm pretty sure Beto never asked to raise your kids. Could you imagine? Beto's like, can I get a hold of Ben Shapiro's kids? I really want to raise them. What are you talking about?
I don't know who Ben Shapiro is, so this is the first time I've seen him, but he reminds me of the kid.
Oh my God, can I live your life?
He reminds me of the kid from Dear Evan Hansen a little bit. Did you ever see that play? All right. Well, like two people in your audience have gotten that joke, but no, I don't know who he is. But he has a way with words.
Like? What
I don't know. I mute a lot of things on Twitter. I feel like that's probably a good decision.
Yes.
But then also I'm sitting here watching it, going, is this an SNL sketch or is this?
It's real life.
It's real.
It's real. This is what's happening. It's insane.
I love that you haven't seen him and you see him for the first time. You're like, is that real?
Yeah.
So, and no, people like that. He's like, that he crosses his eyes like this and then talks really fast. That's like a thing.
Okay.
Interesting. So, look, guys, I don't want to gloss over. So there's the violence, and you can see it in the tape. It's not just Ben Shapiro. It's constant references by the right wing, and the thing that they usually hide behind is the Second Amendment. So it's one thing to believe in the Second Amendment. It's another thing to say that I'm going to greet people with a gun and threaten to kill them, etc. Right now, but I don't want to gloss over what he said about the trans community. And you want to talk about violence? The trans community suffers more violence than any other community in the country. But he said, "Oh, I don't believe that people with mental illness should be harmed in any way." He's such an unbelievable. I'm not allowed to curse, so but you know what he is. So he does.
I don't understand. Sorry to interrupt you. I don't understand his weird obsession with the trans community, right?
I do, yeah.
It's very strange to me because they don't hurt you, they don't harm you, they're not in any way encroaching on your conservative lifestyle. These are humans, and if he genuinely thinks that, all they have is a mental health issue. Okay, so do you think that it's nice to just go on air constantly and go after people who have mental health issues? I mean,
the funny thing is he supports Trump, who has mental health issues.
Yeah.
So no, look, and the reason I brought that up is in regards to Trump. I've said when he's shouted out a couple times online. I'm known for two things: being like a smart person and being mentally stable. Like, who brags about being mentally stable and volunteers that when no one asked, right? And I've made the comparison to a guy walking into a room and going, "I'm not gay," like when no one asked, right? And so with Ben Shapiro, he kind of makes it almost literal, where he goes on air, he's like, "Trans people are a real problem. It's a real problem." Okay, wait, why? How is a trans person a real problem in my life? Oh, maybe it's a real problem in your life. For whatever reasons, that's up to you, okay? But then you take it out on them and you get people all riled up against them, and then you say horribly demeaning things. And what you can't, and that's the other thing, guys. Are you a decent person, or are you not? Now you know that he knows that he's hurting them, right? That he's purposely offending them, like, ha, you have a mental illness. I don't believe anything you say about your own life, and I'm gonna degrade you in this way. And he thinks, yeah, that's cool. And a lot
it's
of his
profitable.
And a lot of his followers think that's cool. If you think that's cool, you're a bad person. That's it.
Yeah, but look, this is what conservatives say concerns them about the transgender community. The issues pertaining to the trans community became mainstream when some lawmakers, local lawmakers throughout the country thought, hey, you know what? Why don't we protect this community and allow them to use the bathroom that they identify with? Because if you are a trans woman and you look like a woman, it doesn't make sense for you to be forced to go to a men's bathroom, right? And then you have conservatives making all sorts of ridiculous, unfounded claims about how people are gonna get sexually assaulted or hurt in these bathrooms. But keep in mind that the very people who made that nonsense argument then turned around and supported Roy Moore in Alabama, who was accused by multiple women, some of whom were minors at the time, that Roy Moore had sexually assaulted them. And so all of this disingenuous nonsense, look, part of it is it's a profitable business model for conservatives. There's some portion of Americans who love that type of content, right? Because you're not gonna get it in any of the responsible news media. And so they get positive reinforcement from their audience members and they continue on with these nonsense talking points. And it's really depressing because you're right, Cenk, this is a community of people who have been targeted, who have been murdered, and they have no voice, they have no power, but for some reason you have people in positions of power with these platforms constantly attacking them.
Cal, you remember that time you were attacked by a trans person in the bathroom? Because I hear it happens to guys all the time. I've literally never heard of one case.
Yeah, same.
In real life, in the news, never heard of one case. So on the other hand, I actually have heard of a lot of cases of Republicans attacking people in bathrooms. Not kidding. Okay, Larry Craig, remember the senator, Republican senator from Idaho? He of the famed wide stance, where he would try to play footsie with the guy in the next stall while the guy's going to the bathroom.
Yeah, the tap dancer.
And
seems like a lot of work just for some head. like just ask somebody. Fine, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, I mean, there's gonna be some takers. It's gonna be okay. Instead, he's like, "What if I did the thing and then I did the?" And there's like apparently some tapping and knocking, etc. But maybe that's why they assume other people do it.
Anyway, I think that it's an excuse to hate them, just to go on air and say the things that they say, and there are ramifications. And look, the reason why people like Ben Shapiro get so defensive is because they've literally been cited by people who have carried out acts of violence, okay? So there's the Quebec City mosque shooter, right? So he actually pleaded guilty to 6 counts of first-degree murder and 6 counts of attempted murder. He opened fire on roughly 50 worshipers who had just completed their evening prayers at the Islamic Cultural Center in Quebec City suburb, in the Quebec City suburb. And this was in 2017. There have been so many shootings like this since that it's hard to keep track of all of them. But here's an important point to make. The shooter checked in on Twitter, or checked in on the Twitter account of Ben Shapiro, editor-in-chief of the conservative news site Daily Wire, 93 times in the month leading up to the shooting. So when you consider the type of language or the type of rhetoric Ben Shapiro has used in regard to Muslims, in regard to Arabs, you gotta keep in mind that rhetoric, unfortunately, does incite violence, especially if someone is predisposed to a mental health condition or if they're violent themselves. It's just a terrible idea to go out there and demonize people that you don't even know.
So look, guys, I want to be clear. I'm not in favor of banning Ben Shapiro's speech. But
no, I'm not saying ban his speech.
No,
I'm saying he should be more responsible with the way he talks about these issues.
And that's exactly what I was going to get to. But can you just watch it a little bit, or no? Hey, there's this guy who loved my show and then went up and shot up a bunch of Muslims. When I say terrible things about Muslims every day, it's too much to ask you to be a little careful. Apparently, it is. So that's on him.
It drives me crazy. I mean, they get so angry at anyone on the left saying anything rude or angry or whatever about Trump supporters. You know, Tomi Lahren got on me because I called her white power Barbie. Okay, fine. But then they turn around and they say all sorts of disgusting things, referring to immigrants as an infestation. How is that okay?
Yeah, 100%.
Anyway, all right. Well, we have 2 minutes left, so let's just quickly talk about our last story.
Let's do the Fox News story.
All right, so Fox News had to issue a correction after they misinterpreted the types of meetings that happened during Obama's administration. So there was an author who has an upcoming book. His name is Doug Mead, and the name of the book is Inside Trump's White House: The Real Story of His Presidency. And in it, he writes, and this excerpt was shared by Fox News, an unnamed White House source as saying that Obama-era CIA officials complained about having to spend a lot of time in the White House doing nonstop PC, political correctness meetings. But here's the problem. PC actually stands for Principals Committee, a top interagency meeting convened by the National Security Council, not political correctness.
Well, I don't know about that. We have Cal Penn here, who's not only an actor, but was in the Obama White House. So Cal, how many politically correct meetings did you guys hold?
Every day. We were obsessed with them. No, I think you need the Principals Committee meetings if you're gonna get bin Laden. I don't know, maybe that's why they were having so many of them.
So, but guys, think about how stupid you have to be to think that the Democrats would actually name a meeting a politically correct meeting. And that they would hold that in the White House, and that's a regular thing that they would do at the White House. Everybody ready for the politically correct meeting? Yep. Okay. Yep. All right. Everybody, come on, gather in. He wrote that in a book, and then the Fox News reporter, so it's like, oh yeah, of course, that obviously happened.
They published it, yeah.
And then they say it on air too.
The best part about the Fox News reporter is that he refused to acknowledge that he was wrong. So David Martosco, who's Daily Mail's US political editor, said that Dorman, that's the Fox News reporter, was insisting that PC still stood for political correctness.
And then he added, and he wasn't very nice about it. Man, you can't buy that kind of stupidity. Congratulations, right wing. Okay, we're out of time. I'm gonna talk to Cal Penn next, so stay right here.
Bye-bye.
We're gonna do a little thing we like to call Weekly World News. Weekly World News. I cull stories from around the globe, stories that aren't covered on the main show or aren't covered enough, and I turn it into a 5-question quiz for Dave and Steve. All right, do we have our answers? A from Dave and C from Steve. And the correct answer is B, an oil tanker that sank off the coast of China. Okay, we have one answer of B and one answer of C. What is the correct answer? It is, of course, A, an airplane wing walking stunt gone wrong. Okay, we have an answer of A from Dave and C from Steve. The correct answer is B. We have an answer of B and C. What is the correct answer in true Weekly World News tradition? It's A.
Come on.
Taking the bear out for ice cream.
That can't possibly be true. We're terrible today. Just terrible.
I often think about the terror that my grandmother was under until she was 8 or 9 years old, and how horrific that experience must have been in this state of discomfort for the benefit of other people.
People will still treat you like you're the problem. That's what we mean when we say living well black. We're just trying to live our best life. We're trying to be the best that we can be. And we're frustrated and tired of people treating us like we're criminals.
The Monsanto Corporation continues to sell an herbicide called Roundup.
You should know that recent studies have linked this commercial herbicide to a significant increase in non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. A diagnosis of this type of cancer can be devastating to you and your family, while Monsanto continues to profit from these sales. If you or a loved one were exposed to Roundup at work or at home and then developed a non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, you might be entitled to financial compensation, and you have a right to take action now.
You're about to watch some behind the scenes footage of the Young Turks. Ooh. Now these are partial videos. If you want to get all of them, you become a member, go to tyt.com/join, and you'll get all the behind the scenes of me, Anna, John, JR, a little bit reality show like, tyt.com/join, and enjoy this.
You know what you're seeing behind me? Jersey, hold. Watch me flip this camera. However I flip it. Do I flip it like this? No, I just took a picture. I'm bitsing right now.
What?
Behind the scenes.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
For members? I don't have my face on.
She doesn't have her face on, folks. Oh, that's JR's ass right there.
You can't take 5 minutes off, can you?
No, I can't, Johnny Pie. I said it was live stream, but I was lying. It's not a live stream. It's just for members. Bitsy, this is my cat. You know what his name is? Kiki Cat.
Animals are innocent.
Control room and the insanity is obviously there.
Right now, as you can see, I'm directing or tech directing.
I'm so happy to be here.
This is what like a Labor Day beard looks like for Cenk. Man, you're a Young Turks viewer if you recognize me like this.
Oh, thank you. You are the one person in my life I would love to meet.
What's going on, guys? This is a Bitsy or a BTS or behind the scenes with Hassan Piker, aka Woke Bay.
Oh, hi, I didn't see you there.
I have finished my show, The Damage Report, and now I get into a really awkward time of the day.
When I'm sitting, the control room is right there. So I can see Bart.
And this is the Pittsburgh office, by the way. Referred to often as the boiler room.
You see how it's ripped? Is it super unprofessional to wear that at a business meeting? Or am I like cool rebel?
I just finished doing the power panel and I'm fired up.
What do you do for TYT?
Not a whole lot.
If you're frantically tweeting at us that something's broken, thank you, because I'm fixing it.
And thank you for being a TYT member.
Super last thing, because there's always got to be a super last thing. Oh, that was disastrous.
This has been behind the scenes, behind the scenes. All right, back on the Young Turks. Joining me now, Cal Penn. So Cal, great to have you here.
Good to be here.
In case people have been living in a box, Cal was in Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle, Designated Survivor, House, 28 other shows. He's got a new, he was of course also in the Obama administration. We'll talk about that in a second. But he's also got in the new show Sunnyside. So Sunnyside started on NBC, now on Hulu.
Now on Hulu and NBC.com. So if folks don't have Hulu, you can still watch it for free on their app and their website.
Okay, so let's start on Sunnyside because I want to get to how you got to be an actor.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh man. All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
This goes back to New Jersey, but go ahead.
Yes, in fact, that's right. So we're both Jersey guys, and that also relates to why me and everyone I know loved Harold and Kumar. Okay, when it first came out, obviously. So first of all, Sunnyside is in Queens.
It's in Queens, yeah.
Right, but you didn't grow up in Queens, you grew up in Jersey.
I grew up in Jersey, but we, early on, before Edison, New Jersey became the hotbed of where brown folks could get groceries, you would have to go to Queens. You'd have to go to Flushing and Jackson Heights especially. And so I sort of remember as a little kid, probably once a month, packing up the station wagon, going to Queens for lunch and to shop. There was a temple there, there's still a temple there. And so when we were looking for a place to set the show, we wanted it, it's a very patriotic comedy, so we wanted it to be a place that looks like if you put every town in America in one, what is that? And it's actually like Jackson Heights and Flushing. Flushing is a terrible title for a show. So we were
well,
like,
it depends
okay, how
on
about
which direction
Sunnyside?
you're going.
Yeah, no, for us, we want it, aspirational. And Sunnyside is not too far from there and has similar demographics, so that's where we set it.
Look, I know you don't want the show to be political, and you actually planned this long time ago, right?
Yeah.
So But it is kind of Tucker Carlson's worst nightmare.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. So now I want to go back to New Jersey in a second. But what happens in the show?
So in the show, right? So 5 years ago, was the original idea for the show, which is about a bunch of immigrants who basically become friends in this community in New York City. And so I play a disgraced city councilman who was the youngest ever elected, loses his seat because he gets wasted on the BQE highway and tries to bribe a cop to not arrest him for public intoxication, loses his job, and realizes he has no other skills. Like he's been this wastoid of a city council person.
So like a normal politician.
Normal politician.
Okay.
And posts an ad on like a Craigslist basically saying for $50 an hour, I'll do whatever you want. And after a lot of demeaning things happen to him, this group of immigrants hire him for the day to basically say, help us study for our citizenship test, not knowing that he really truly knows absolutely nothing about the process and has just been scamming the system for 15 years. And that's
and you still say this isn't about Trump.
I'm still, well look, so the original idea behind it obviously had nothing to do with how polarized our country is right now, but if you ask our writers who have written 11, I think really funny, poignant episodes, I mean, every day they have to be mindful of what the actual tyrannical administration is doing because we're a show about immigrants. And so some of the stuff has to track. Like we've got a DACA recipient, we've got folks who have come under very different circumstances. We've got people who are there on like the millionaire visa, and so you do sort of, our writers have the difficult task of actually trying to figure out what has changed overnight, who's he going after now, just for the sole purpose of our comedy. It's a comedy first and foremost, but we're also aware of the world we live in.
Are one of your writers a millionaire?
No, not the writers. Two of the characters. Okay. Two of the characters are the kids of billionaires. The kids of Chinese billionaires that are loosely based on an Icelandic family that somebody knows.
Oh, okay. Because I was gonna say I am obviously in the wrong profession.
No,
I was a comedy writer for 3.5 seconds, and I was thought like I should have stayed. I should have stayed. Okay, well I wouldn't have made it anyway. But so I saw that one of the writers actually talked about a cure for the common cold. Like you guys had an episode about this. Something about onions in the socks. And I'm an immigrant, but even I hadn't heard that one.
We have two of our writers, our two brothers, they're Bosnian, and they told this great story in the writer's room one day. We were talking about home remedies and what immigrant parents or grandparents bring with you. And they were saying, we have this memory when we moved to America, I think they were 12 years old, they would get colds and their mom would put onions and vinegar and a few other things into socks and make them sleep with these onion socks on.
Obviously.
And that was supposed to get rid of the cold. And it was just, everyone had a story for some home remedy that was like that obviously is meaningless. And so there's a line in one of the episodes where there's an Ethiopian character who's actually a doctor who's driving a cab and is talking to the DACA kid about some home remedy, and the Ethiopian guy goes, yeah, in Ethiopia we have something similar, but instead we use antibiotics is what we use to actually treat the cold. So there's like, it's dumb fun comedy with a very purposely subversive kind of edge to it.
All right, I love it. I remember when I was a kid growing up in Turkey, I came when I was 8. There was a theory that if you open up a window on one side of the house and the other side of the house, instantly everyone in the house is going to get sick. Right, and the other misunderstanding that I had, because I was a little kid, especially when I went back to Turkey, and then I was starting to forget Turkish. Right, the word for draft, like getting a draft through the house, and electrocuted sound incredibly similar. So I was like, I think I get the part where you get sick if there's windows open on two sides of the house, but why are we going to get electrocuted? And has no one noticed that we never got electrocuted?
Right. Why is that still a thing? Why are we still scared to be electrocuted?
Anyway, so these are fun immigrant stories. But look, that's not a depressing part of what's happening today in the country. I used to be able to make fun of myself a lot more. Like I'd make a lot of Muslim jokes.
Sure.
Right? But now I'm like worried that I'm aiding and abetting people who actually hate Muslims.
Yeah.
So are we still allowed to make fun of ourselves? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, look, the real fear is like, what do you talk about outside the family, so to speak, right? Like, can you still have the kind of humor that you have? When we were putting the show together, our mandate was be funny first and foremost. And what I wanted was a show that was incredibly diverse, that told authentic, diverse stories, but that could appeal to a wide range of people. And when we put the cast together, we told our casting director, Allison Jones, just bring us the funniest people. And she did, and we changed a bunch of ethnicities along the way. Our writer's room is also, in addition to the show being the most diverse show on TV right now, the writer's room is the most diverse show. I think both in the history of television is what a couple of journalists have told us. And what was amazing about that is it's a workplace where we show up to work and you don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to like have the boring conversation about somebody asking some dumb question because they've never been around a second or third generation person, even with immigrant parents or grandparents. That's really liberating and refreshing, but also because we get to just be funny, you know? Like your comedy background, like you just want to be funny at the end of the day. And if you can do it in a way that your audience, our dream audience is the people like us who never had this stuff to grow up with. We want it to be patriotic. We want it to be, we watch the news and we're horrified. Is there a show where people actually look like us? They're dealing with the stuff that our communities are dealing with, and then you're just gonna laugh your butt off while you're doing all that. And it's been a really great experience.
In fact, I read that Mississippi Masala was a big inspiration for you, which gets us back to Jersey and how you became an actor.
Yeah, Mississippi Masala came out when I was probably in 7th grade. It was Mira Nair's second film, I think. Denzel Washington and Sarita Chowdhury, and that was the first time that I had seen people who looked like us, who were humans on screen. Because up until then, it was either folks in brown face or it was cartoons like The Simpsons and brown voice or whatever.
Right.
And there was something.
And Justin Trudeau.
Really, right? Exactly. A long list of politicians.
Yeah.
And I had never seen that before, and so I was like, oh wow! In addition to being a really interesting movie, I thought, well, if they can do this, maybe I can do this too. Maybe I can be a storyteller. Maybe I can be funny, or I don't know. And that was the first time that I thought I want to maybe pursue a career in the arts, and had a chance to work with Mira Nair years later. And but yeah, that was one of several experiences early on.
So Cal's actually from the same town that my parents live in, and home of Bruce too.
Bruce Springsteen.
So we will never be the most famous person from our town.
No, there's no way. There's no way. And New Jersey's such a populous state that people always throw out like the people that you're happy to be grouped with, like Queen Latifah and Lauryn Hill, and just there's no shortage. And then like, oh, you're from Bruce Springsteen's town? Oh, it'll never be my town.
Yeah,
it'll be Bruce's town.
That's right. I originally grew up in East Brunswick, New Jersey, which is the town of several other famous people like Josh Miller, who was a punter for the NFL, and they're like, you'll never be that famous. We were in the same class. To be fair, Josh won a Super Bowl.
Yeah. Oh, right. Well, yeah.
But you're growing up in New Jersey, you see this thing, but I know having a similar background, when I said to my parents, hey, I went to business school, I went to law school, but I'm gonna put those aside and I'm gonna become a radio talk show host. My dad's like, oh, easy, take me now.
Yeah.
Take me now, right? So he was a little shell-shocked by that. Then he goes, where do you go to school for become talk show host?
Yeah.
Right? My dad, there is no school, right?
Right.
So now, in your case, how do your parents react?
Similarly, I think with a different, I don't know that they were George and Wheezy fans, but similarly, right? I mean, no immigrant moves to America for your child to pursue one of the least stable professions, which is really either athletics or the arts, I would imagine.
Yeah.
And so it was tough. It was a lot of years of explaining, even the like, well, this is gonna make me happy. And then of course, that's the worst thing you could say. It's like, what do you know about happiness at 17? You don't know anything, which is also true, by the way. As an adult, you realize like, okay, what they were, but I've talked to my parents about it recently, and I said, did I embarrass you? Like, how badly did I embarrass you as a kid? Yeah. And they said it wasn't about embarrassment, it was about our fears. We were scared for you. We were scared that we moved all the way across the world and we sacrificed so much, and we just didn't want you to have to deal with as difficult a life as what we had to deal with. And I thought that was really, had they said that in those words at 17, it would have been meaningless, by the way, right? Because you're 17 and you've got all that angst. But yeah, it was tricky. And to make matters worse, by the way, one of the first big movies I did was Van Wilder with Ryan Reynolds, where I'm like naked sliding off of a woman's body.
Yeah,
it's like,
make it worse.
There's no worse expression for your parents than like, by the way, I booked my first movie. That's the good news, Mom. The bad news is, here's the scene. And I remember showing my parents the script, and they got to that scene, and my mom thought it was pornography, and she was very upset. And then I had to explain why it's not pornography, and I was like, you guys were right. This is not why you moved to America. For me to slide off of a naked woman in a movie.
And you're like, no, it's okay. I'm gonna graduate to being a stoner later.
Right, exactly. Don't worry. But the stoner was in med school, so I feel like that had some points.
Yes.
Kumar was a doctor on his way to being a doctor.
And look, that's the thing. If you guys, like, a lot of people watch Harold and Kumar and related to it for a million different reasons, and a lot of people related to it for being a stoner, but for us kids who are immigrants growing up, we related to it because, oh my God, those are us. That's us.
Yeah.
That's us. And growing up in East Brunswick, half my friends were Indian, half my friends were Asian, right? And the other half were Jewish, but I'm not good at math. So everybody was so excited when Harold and Kumar came out because finally, to your earlier point, it was us.
It was us, and that's, I mean, every group, the three groups you just mentioned are the groups that made Harold and Kumar happen. The two writers and creators, John Hurwitz and Hayden Schlossberg, like two Jewish guys from North Jersey who sat around going, how come our Indian and Asian friends are never the guys in these movies? Like there's sometimes an Asian guy with one line, if you go back to the 90s, and usually it's stereotypical, but when they get stoned and watch movies with their friends, they all stay the whole movie. They don't just leave, right?
Yeah.
And so they thought, let's just write the movie ourselves. And it was a little movie with small budget. I remember New Line Cinema was behind it, and it released, and it didn't do well in the box office. The first,
is that right?
Yeah, it got pulled after the first 2 weeks. And I remember the sentiment in Hollywood was, see, we told you, America's not ready for two Asian American men to lead a comedy. And for about 3 months, I was very upset because I didn't know how to process that. I'm like, there's no way these guys are right because I feel like there's an audience for it. Then it comes out on HBO and DVD with no marketing, and the fans find it themselves, and they're buying the DVD and having watch parties and getting stoned with all their friends who stay for the whole movie. And we're so thankful to the fans for that. It really showed, I think, it showed us that we were right in the sense that the audience isn't stupid. They really want fun content. They're not obsessed with what the characters look like. Like the movie played in Kansas and Oklahoma and Minnesota, right? Just as much as it did along the coast. So it had a special place for those of us who are the kids of immigrants who never got to see ourselves on TV. But then it also played for audiences that will never maybe meet somebody who looks like us in their high school. And that was my litmus for Sunnyside as well, where there's a reason we're the most diverse show out there right now, is that nobody wants to do that. And I get it, and sometimes there's tokenization, and they've got one or two characters in their show, if that. But there's a difference between tokenization and representation. And I think when you focus on representation, you tell really compelling universal stories that people can gravitate towards because they like the story.
Right. So, at this point, Harold and Kumar are so legendary, and I don't use that lightly. I mean, everybody knows it. Like, you can't. I don't think you can find anybody that doesn't know Harold and Kumar. That I'm shocked that it was only in the movie theaters 2 weeks.
It was, but it did. I mean, it did well on DVD. It did well
Obviously,
we got a second and third out of it. Literally thanks to the fans, though. If you look at like how does a grassroots audience build a movie or a franchise, it is literally this. We thought it was done. It lasted 2 weeks. That was it. And really, it's solely because the fans gave us so much love. So I have nothing but love for them back.
Well, that's the true for all of us outsiders, right? And when you're an immigrant, you're almost by definition an outsider. Nobody ever sees an immigrant that doesn't look like them go into a school and go, oh, that's one of us. Hey, come on in. You're part of the cool kids now. Look, it doesn't mean that no immigrant that comes in winds up as part of the cool kids, but they got to get there. It's a struggle to get there, right? And so we're almost kind of natural born outsiders. And so we need you guys. And that's why what you described about Harold and Kumar is exactly what happened with the Young Turks.
Yeah.
Right, we had no advantages, no insiders, no nothing. And these guys just came and lifted us up and said, yeah, we like that.
Yeah,
right?
The audience found you because you're a good show. You spoke to them and you resonated for a particular way. That's awesome.
And again, having nothing to do with immigrants or anything like that. It just had to do with, oh, those guys are saying something that I like that nobody else is saying. Right. In our case, is progressive coverage of the news, et cetera. But as you were talking, I realized, Harold and Kumar in some ways is the original Black Panther.
Oh man.
Right? I mean, think about it. Like, I know that's a big thing to compare it to, but everybody was convinced, oh, you can't have all black cast. That's crazy, right? Everybody was convinced you can't have two leading Asian actors. They've always been wrong.
They have always been wrong, but that's because anytime you sell a product, the people who are in charge of the business of it, they don't know what to do. I mean, you can look at almost any movie like that. I remember remember that movie Set It Off? I don't know how it did, but oh my gosh, a movie with all black women, is that gonna work? Or can the protagonist be somebody we've never seen before? It happens in TV now even, right? As things shuffle from network to streaming to reality to whatever. People don't know, people that make the business decisions are scared. And the silver lining to that is that audiences still are able to find the content that they like. For me, it's funny because I know you're putting it in the comedy genre, and it's like, what a compliment, the Black Panther comparison. I remember things like when the Joy Luck Club came out, right? Or Mississippi Masala, which was the first time I saw. That was an all black, all Indian cast, and it took place in Mississippi, and it did well at the time. So there are these examples of, how do you tell your art? How do you make your stories when you're not necessarily even given the platform? And it's really inspiring to see all these people that do it.
So they say Hollywood is liberal. In a lot of ways it is in terms of the actors and some of the talent. But the executives are not at all liberal.
Right.
Okay, not at all. Crass capitalists. And kind of, and also not, look, I'm gonna keep it real. I'm not in that business, so I don't care.
Yeah.
Not that bright, right? So they just go with simple formulas. Like, okay, Crazy Rich Asians did well. Okay, from now on, we're just making Asian movies.
Right.
No, that wasn't the point. That wasn't the point, right? Like, maybe try to represent people in a normal way so people can relate to it. It's not that complicated. But anyway, I wanted to, speaking of politics, I want to move to that because. So how'd you go from acting to all of a sudden in the Obama administration?
So timing right around now in October of 2007. So as the Bush administration was wrapping up and the field was very crowded, the screenwriters went on strike in Hollywood, and so we couldn't. I was on the show House at the time, couldn't really shoot anything. I got invited to an event that then Senator Obama was doing. This is October 2007, so I think he was still down significantly. He was down like 30 points in the polls that summer leading up to it. I'd read his book.
So you thought sure winner.
I thought, so I read his book, I saw the speech, the 04 DNC speech and all that, and I liked what he had to say. I liked that he wasn't taking lobbyist money, but I never thought I wanted to volunteer for a presidential candidate. And I saw a speech that he gave where he talked about the environment and there was no press in the room, and he called people out in the audience who had driven these like big Hummers to his rally, and I thought, oh, that's like poli-sci 101 is don't do that. These people are donating to your campaign. I'm like, that guy might be the real deal on certain issues. Let me explore this. So I went to Iowa for 3 days to volunteer for his campaign and ended up falling in love with that experience and stayed until the Iowa caucuses and then had the chance to go to 26 other states. And so at the end of that very long, very heated campaign, mostly between Obama and Hillary, he ends up winning the nomination, winning the presidency, and then had the chance to work in the White House Office of Public Engagement, mostly on youth outreach and outreach to Asian American Pacific Islander communities. So what are you gonna say, no, I have another stoner movie to make? Like, I'm honored to serve my country for these 2 years. And then we'll go back to my first love, which is always making people laugh in the arts. But
did Glenn Beck ever try to get you fired?
So he did try to get a lot of people in my office fired. I remember one of my bosses, Buffy Wicks, who's now in an elected office here in California. She's fantastic, and he like put up all these weird. I don't know if he got emails or we couldn't. We weren't using Twitter at the time, but no, he was very obsessed with our office because the whole point of the Office of Public Engagement was to make sure that every American proverbially has a seat at the table, which was the whole point of the president's campaign, and Republicans couldn't handle that.
Yeah. Of course, Glenn Beck doesn't want everybody to have a seat at the table. He wants people that look like him to have a seat at the table.
Yeah.
So
well,
that's funny. I was kidding. I didn't know that he had attacked you guys, but now it totally makes sense.
He went after our office. But you expect that of any time that you're trying to make sure that everybody's voice is represented. And if you look at the types of issues we were working on, I was there when we worked on the DREAM Act, which failed by 5 votes. And by the way, 5 Democrats, if I'm not mistaken, voted no on it. So it wasn't even that we were up against conservatives who would obviously oppose a president like him, but it was even within the Democratic Party, which you think about a lot now as the primaries heating up. It's like, okay, well, are there lessons to be learned? And then also, no matter who wins the nomination, what about the House and the Senate and local races? And that person's going to need votes to line up, and hopefully it'll be a candidate who's farther to the left of Obama, because that's how things grow and progress, and we'll see what happens.
That's 1,000,000,000% right. In fact, I think you summarize it better there than 99% of politicians. Guys, how are we going to actually pass the bills?
Yeah,
that's the most important thing. In order to pass the bills, you need the House and the Senate, and it's often the Democrats that vote no. And so it's an uncomfortable truth people don't like to talk about. Right. So I heard that, and you tell me if it's right or wrong, that in last election cycle that you supported Bernie in the primaries.
Yes. Yeah, supported Bernie in the primaries. I thought it was helpful to, it seemed like Hillary was going to win the nomination, and of course she did. And I thought it's helpful to move her to the left on certain issues. I particularly liked his college plan, free college, and then of course, moderate Democrats and all your Republican friends are like, it's not free. I'm like, I know, rich people have to pay more taxes so that college can be free for everybody else. That's how it's paid for essentially. And I thought that was great. And look, when she got the nomination, she took his college affordability plan. I understand the cynics, on our side were like, well, she's just doing that to win votes. I'm like, well, yeah, because that's how an election works. Literally, you do get what you want. But yeah, I thought, I'm of the belief that, and I know people attack Bernie and Warren. I haven't picked somebody yet for the current cycle, but people go after Bernie and Warren all the time for aiming for 1,000%. Like, well, that's too lofty. It's never going to happen. Well, sure, 1,000% of what they're aiming for is not going to happen, but 20% of that 1,000% is still a huge amount of progress. And if the other candidates are promising 5%, you're going down to what, 0.5%? I'd rather take the person aiming for 1,000% who's going to give us 20% and help wrangle enough votes around that for those policies to be effective. So I think it's a little silly to say like, oh, that's just a pipe dream. It's the same people who go, Obama should have blah, blah, blah. Sure, there were mistakes he made, but this like revisionist thing that, oh, he had this magic wand that he just decided he wasn't gonna use is a little bit, I think, a small-minded way of thinking about the complexities of things. And that's why I hope, you go for, it's a primary, man. You go farther to the left and you end up somewhere else. If you go to the right now, then the alt-right has won by bringing the Democratic Party farther to the right.
See, there's a reason why you worked at the White House. That's better political analysis than almost any politician.
Is it? I don't know.
Swear to God.
I'm just really high right now, so it was. I'm not. Right. Don't worry.
Everyone, check out Sunnyside. It's on Hulu now. And by the way, it's not just about immigration issues. It also deals with episodes on LGBTQ issues as well.
Yeah, this week's episode especially. I don't think there's ever been an episode with one of our series regulars, Griselda, and her wife, who we meet in the episode that just dropped on Hulu last night. They're sharing their immigration story. They're also like phenomenally hilarious because it's basically just about a bickering couple. So all of this stuff we do in a purposely understated way that represents all of us and makes audiences laugh. So hopefully, it's groundbreaking without beating anybody over the head with anything. And I think straddling that line, we've had a lot of fun with.
All right, awesome. Cal Penn, thank you, brother.
I appreciate
it. All right, guys. For all of you guys out there who are members, we still have a post game coming up, tyt.com/join. So that'll be back in just a minute. And for everyone else, we'll see you on Monday.
Hey there, everybody, and welcome to the Friday Post Game, the 15th hour. I'm your host, Malcolm Pleshner, with Steve O, Dave Kohler, the Three Amigos, the way you like it. Although some of you also like it when we have other guests, and some even others like it when we're not here at all.
There's something for everyone.
There's something for, we aim to please something for everyone, even those who hate us. So we got a lot of exciting stuff to get to today. We've been off for 2 weeks. We are recording this the day before, for those of you who are new to the Friday Post Game. So if anything happens,
what's today's date?
Today is the 7th. November 7th.
Yeah.
And as we're recording this, but you're watching on the 8th or afterwards. So who knows, if Trump resigns or whatever between now and Friday, that's why we didn't cover it. So it's happening. All right, so the first thing I wanted to get to is this day in history, a little historical snippet I wanted to share with you and with Steve and Dave, who probably aren't aware of it, as my guest. And it dates back to 1892, and this is an image from New Orleans.